Oh, yeah, we're doing this thing again, right? Here we go. How are you? Let's do it. It's Wednesday, September 3rd, 2 p.m. on the East Coast. I thought we could get a fluid time here. I guess not. Hey, but it's the BCX. All right, put it up. There we go. Okay, 2-drink minimum. Tip your waitresses. Cup of coffee for the working man. And, of course, smoke them if you got them. Rah, rah. This is Campbell's Rambles. This is what we do on the Brian Campbell experience, where once a week this middle-aged fella in his basement talks in massive circles for the betterment of a couple hundred of you. But hey, let's join the same club together. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. We are at the tail end of a very dead combat summer, and we are about to kick it into high gear, of course, with this Saturday's UFC Paris card, with Canelo-Crawford literally right around the corner. It seems like a lot of the friends are here, from former American President Zachary Taylor down to Lazy Bed of the Just Bleed radio fame. All right, Canada's own Brody in the house. Okay, he got stuck watching Ariel, post-vacation Ariel, back in the swing, I hear. So shout out there. And of course, what about Kevin Holland Oates? That is a heck of a name right there, getting that BCE where it matters. Zoe the cat in the building, always in the building now. She's taking over my office. She's taking over my life right there. All right, there we go. There it is. Okay. So we're going to talk today about a few different things. We're going to talk about UFC Paris, talk about this Jon Jones news, talk about whatever the heck else is on your mind in the world of combat sports and beyond, including topics like men with cats, 70s vinyl, 90s NBA, mental health, I don't know, whatever else you got going on here. A couple of programming notes. Whoa, Zoe, that's a heck of a growl, right? There you go. Programming notes here for the old BCX. We got a lot of interviews. We got some fresh interviews. Okay, you into this? We got them. All right. Hopefully you're having a great day, like Yo Mama 69 putting out here. Yes, I am. Thank you. You can check out my chats with the likes of Callum Walsh, Corey O.T. Anderson, Usman Nurmagomedov, Paul Hughes, Eric Roberts. I mean, look, we got weird stuff on this channel. If you like it, get into it. Okay, that's what I got going for you. All right. Also, MK will be back on Friday to get you ready for Imavov versus Bohalio and more. So tune into that program, 11 a.m. Eastern, a nice remote episode. So you into the rake today? What are we thinking here? Big rake day? Yeah, there we go. There it is right there. MK will be back on Friday. And then look, next week, man, we're going to bang. We're going to get into it. It's going to be Canelo-Crawford. So to get you ready, to get you prepared for Canelo-Crawford, I know what you're thinking. We need Big Red. No, not Big Red Alvarez. We need the other guy, okay? The other bottle that I mixed, Rafe Bartolome. He's back at it tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, Thursday, September 4th. Tune in live on the BCX. We're about to get inside the box. We got burning questions about this here big fight right around the corner. So it's going to be great. So we're going to get the band back together. BC, Rafe Boogedy. The big red machine known as your mayor of Knox County, Tennessee there, or whatever it is. All right. Shout out to Kane, Glenn Jacobs. Call it Stat. We call him Statch in these parts, right? The Rafist guy we got, Rafe B. All right. New York Times best-selling Rafist. Love that guy. Love him. All right. To death. Right. Tell him, Lazy Bed. Tell him about him. All right. Looks like all of our friends have shown up. We can get going. We can get into gear. All right. I mean, we got Brody Moretta already getting after it. Did you ask Callum Walsh about Tabitha Ricci? No, not this interview. I have in prior interviews done the baby shark bit, but this was a little bit more serious. We're getting ready. We're getting fired up. It is Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr. Come co-main event time on Netflix. So Zoe knocking things over as usual. I mean, did Hulk have it coming? Probably. All right. Not to pile on here, but there we go. There it is. All right. One text message I have to return here. So why don't you find out about what Floyd and Sal Pal are into? All right.
Take one round at a time. Let him shoot his low, and then down the stretch, do what we do best.
When did you think that the fight was starting to turn, when he had shot his load and you could come out?
When he started shooting his low in the first half of the fight.
There it is. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for being you. Okay. Hey, let's get into it. Let's get fired up. Let's get ready. Hope everybody is taking great care of themselves up here. That's where it matters most. All right. Talk to somebody. Talk to a friend. Talk to me. Whatever you got to do. All right. BC care. If no one else care. Oh, yeah. Also, I mean, look, do we expect big movements in these parts? Depends on what I ate for lunch. But really, smash the like. Maybe even subscribe. Maybe even tell a friend. I think I got 2 days left to get those memberships in gear to get that little extra cashola that YouTube's offering. So let's get that going too. We'll get some. What are people into? I don't know. I'll have to ask Long Island Luke about that. Sorry. It's kind of hard with this type of love, just all over me there. But I'll take it. All right. There we go. Also, yeah, I don't know if that was for me, but I do know this one is. Shout out to Big Papa, Key Papa. This guy will show up on MK, show up on the BCX, show up late for work at the factory, whatever you need. He just shows. Okay. He shows it all. Missouri style. There we go. All right. Real quick here. Blood and Beer. BC, did you catch the Dana White Contender Series last night? I do know my good friend Luke Nocita of the Main Card Minute did have a live program streaming in conjunction with that. So shout out. No, I saw the highlights. I know it was the season finale. I know it was there's my guy right there. There he is. There's the Main Card Minute in the house. I know Blood and Beer that there was an explosive knockout that I retweeted. There seemed to be some awesome fight, including a dude with a tattoo on titty of like Scarface or something. And yes, I woke up to Jed Meshew and others sending Gary Copeland to hell. Okay, so I'll have to catch up on that and maybe a little mustard too. All right, I relish the opportunity. Main Card Minute saying Gary Copeland pound for pound. Yes, but he does know the way to the gym. Okay, if you know what I'm talking about right there. There it is. All right. Facts, no see-do. Facts, no see-da. All right. Luke, hey, by the way, is there any better pleasure in life than an afternoon cup of coffee for a middle-aged man? I mean, I could think of a few. Robert Kraft could too, but shout out to this. Belichick 0-1, by the way, speaking of old guys who know the direction of the tug, all right? Also from Telvin, proud to be sponsored by Factory Town MMA. Yes, Factory Town approved, all right? Literally, right out of the factory, my guy, Big Papa, Key Papa. Brody adding Gary Copeland going to crash out and start giving people that work. I mean, he is built for that. All right, let's play the game here. Let's do it. Topic number 1. I didn't think I'd be talking about Jon Jones today, but I do want to be fair because fair is Ferris wheel, right? Did I just spill that on me? Didn't Trey Anastasio once sing that on his very underrated solo self-titled album debut from 2001, or was I the only one who purchased that? All right, here we go. You got any paper towels on you, Zoe? There we go. There it is. Okay, good stuff. Jon Jones, who most recently was hey, what's crack-a-lacking with you, Axe? All right, ask me about that. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So Jon Jones, of course, was tied up with another bad headline recently, and we, due to the fact that this man certainly resume-wise, resume meaning outside the cage, don't seem to owe him in a lot of cases a benefit of the doubt because of the continued missteps. And then you add in there the frustration MMA fans have of him essentially working himself into being stripped of the title to avoid Aspinall, only to just throw himself back in the mix when the South Lawn was available. This man was, of course, charged with a misdemeanor charges related to a February incident in which he was accused of fleeing the scene of yet another accident. This time, though, involving a pantsless woman in the passenger seat who claimed that Jon was driving and ran. And because of the fact that we've seen him do that before, we certainly jumped on it. But officially, and this is why you do always have to be careful, especially in journalism, but even just in general of, I guess, innocent until proven guilty, judging people before you know all of the facts. This was ultimately thrown out, dismissed by the state of New Mexico. So Jon's cleared on that misstep. And then Jon will put out a statement on Instagram that would include things like, I have always believed in the importance of truth and fairness, and I'm grateful that the evidence spoke for itself. The simple fact is this, Jones said, I was never there. I never even left my house that night. And all the evidence proved that. In this case, there was a rush to judgment before any real evidence was gathered. I understand that in the court of public opinion, the allegations may have seemed believable. Jones would continue, especially given my past mistakes. But by the time the claims were made public, I had just retired from competition, and that moment was stolen from me by someone who made false accusations to avoid a DWI and any real accountability. That's just a portion of Jon's statement. You can read more on Instagram if you're into that. Do I want to push back on anything from there, Jon? Yeah. Okay, Jon, they stole your retirement moment. I think you stole the last 2.5 years of the heavyweight division, maybe even 5 if we want to go back even further. That might neither be here nor there, according to Luke Thomas's IT issues, right? All right. So, like, miss me with that. But the case is thrown out. Jon Jones was not there. They have proven this. So I do want to say, I even want to apologize to Jon for me jumping the gun, because this does remind me of a situation, and it piqued a deep memory in my mind when I was watching that Netflix docu-series that they just put out about the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones and all of that, which was highly entertaining. You know, it might have been flawed in certain ways, but very highly entertaining for those who had lived that, right, in the 90s, watching that Cowboys dynasty of 3 Super Bowl championships in 4 years. And of course, the circus coaching carousel of Jimmy Johnson getting fired after winning back-to-back Super Bowls. And shout out to Barry Switzer, still kicking it in that doc. But watching the beginning of Michael Irvin, the playmaker, the star Hall of Fame wide receiver, his legal undoing, which may or may not have been motivated by the very laissez-faire coaching style of Barry Switzer at that time, especially in comparison to Jimmy Johnson. What that doc seemed to spell out ultimately is, extensively covering that case after they won the 3rd Super Bowl in January 96, of which Irvin was caught with drugs, I don't want to say prostitute. Well, I guess maybe drugs, women, bad situation, very, very, very easily could have done time, and then sort of miraculously was able to get out without that and continue his career. And it reminded me of a few years after that, where if you recall, Irvin was accused, a woman accused offensive lineman Eric Williams of rape, and said that Irvin was there sort of watching and doing drugs and was kind of a part of it. Those allegations, I remember, were printed very publicly, and it was sort of like, oh, Irvin in hot water again. If these charges stick, he's definitely going to do time, blah, blah, blah. And when it was found that those were false, that he also wasn't even there, I'll never forget what he did when he came out to that news conference and ultimately said, I'm now cleared. I'm now found innocent. So print that with the same level of intensity that you did when you all thought I was guilty. And, was that a situation where Irvin didn't have much rope to try to be given the benefit of the doubt, like Jones, for sure? And as a lot of you are pointing out, I'm certainly not trying to give Jon a, Chamber of Commerce medal here for his contributions to the Albuquerque community. Let's not forget what Bud Deasy points out, that Jones stole a decade of great fights from us. Also, let's not forget that, as Danger Mouse would add, and shout out to Danger Mouse, I'm glad we made up without even speaking, he also still threatened to cop. Yeah, I mean, look, Jon is unfortunately a sort of a walking mess in a lot of ways. But I did want to point out that this is a situation where we do have to remind ourselves of not just putting that stamp on there, I guess, until we find out. It reminded me of that Michael Irvin situation where I remember when he was accused of that, being like, man, this guy can't get it right, put him behind bars. And then, by the way, did you see how sweaty Michael Irvin was on the sidelines of that U game on Saturday? Good Lord, he was getting after it. But so there you go. Kevin Holland Oates, speak to me. They may have dropped the charges, but Jon was still on the phone proving what a pathetic, insecure little man he is. Also, I believe he was driving and fled. I don't care what the legal system says. Dude, again, I hear you. But that's also part of the issue here. So Jon gets away from this. I mean, I don't know how much more Jon would have to do to actually get either jail time or some sanctioning from his own employer, but apparently they don't do that. But I did want to, put it on the record that I just assumed he was, it was there. But Yeah, good question here, Boots and Hose. Does BC care about college football? Not in this era, but I certainly have. I mean, when you work college football Saturdays at ESPN like I did for, 8 of my almost 12 years there, you certainly can get the full addiction bug. And I was a big time Penn State football fan in the late 90s and most of the 2000s as well. But as I've explained many times, from the idea of team sports, when you work at ESPN and you get your dream job, and I was a front page editor, I was a lot of different jobs there before I got into combat. You're risking extreme burnout, and I was burnt at both ends. So it's kind of hard to be that, but I try to keep up with the headlines and the Belichicks and all this crap. Speaking of big news, that Pablo Torre, I mean, I share the same seat where Pablo Torre finds out. You see this new one with the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard and climate change. I mean, this guy's on fire lately. So that's my 2 cents on Jon Jones. Take it for what you will. I hear you, Maniac. Kobe was also innocent in 04 in Colorado, right? Jones never done anything wrong. I hear you, Balloon Fart. Great name, but there it is right there. And as Brody from Canada will tell you, Michael Irvin was running through white women and white lines. That is a proven fact right there. That is, shout out to that guy. That is a proven fact. All right. Quick aside here. I will be making an appearance on Just Bleed Radio. We have touched each other virtually. We have touched, it was consensual. We have touched ground on this. So Danger, Lazy, Old Man Dave, who else we got in that squad? Hey, let's do this after next week, because I'll be in Vegas next week. So let's do this after that. But yes, let's do it. All right. To close on the Jon Jones situation, let's hear from Zachary Taylor. Jon Jones as a human is bad. However, saying he stole fights, without him, the fights wouldn't have been thought of. And his early career was so fun to watch. So that latter is very true. I'll give you that. The latter point. Trash human. Let me be clear. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't fully agree with the former point, Zach, because he robbed the heavyweight division, sitting out 3 years, trying to get the money he wanted, waiting for, I guess, Ngannou to leave. Didn't love that. It's inexcusable and explainable what he did during this current Aspinall run to avoid him. And now we just go, oh, yeah, but now I want back in on the South Lawn. So I've said it before. I said it again. I mean, I want Jon Jones to, I don't want to say that I want Jon Jones to be loved. I mean, I'm so far back sticking up for him, or, beyond giving him the benefit of the doubt and realizing I was, I and a lot of us may have been wrong in this spot. But I would love for him as an athlete and competitor and the greatest fighter this sport has ever produced to be able to author a finish to that career that is anything but what it was when he stepped away recently, ducking a fight against a guy who hasn't even proven yet whether he's actually the guy and super legit, right? So, I think the best thing Jon can do, if there's any winning back the parts of the court of public opinion, is get back in a fight in early 26. Let UFC use that to kick off the Paramount deal with a bang. Fight somebody, and then fight Aspinall on the damn South Lawn. All right. And finish out, you get the Poatan fight, get whatever it is, but finish it out the right way. Cause you do still have it to a certain degree. And I'm not ready to forgive what you did to the sport the last few years. All right. Enough Jon Jones talk. Who makes these rundowns anyway? All right. There we go. All right. Yeah. Lazy bed. Let's do this. All right. Let's freaking do it. Let's consummate already. Thank you very much. All right. Did I forget somebody? Who did I forget? Here? Which guy on the team? I don't know. I'm trying to stay in line with your comments. I got a cat. I got text messages coming in. There's a lot going on here. All right, let's go to my second topic of the day here. One more from J Ray Bo B. J Ray BO2. J Ray B Oxygen. There we go. That's Jon Jones's fault. He left that way, BC. No need to carry water for him by hoping that for him. So certainly not carrying water for him. But when you've covered and watched a guy for literally the totality of, or not, I guess I didn't watch his early, regional wins over Parker Porter, but, I literally remember after his UFC debut, my buddy at ESPN, John Israel, going, that's the future of MMA. That's the next champion. That could be the greatest fighter we've ever seen. And I was like, dude, what? Like, hold on. The guy's been in the UFC for like 36 minutes. What are we doing here? So like, do I wish well for everyone, even if, it is in some ways the separation of the art and the artist. I guess I fell hard for that on the Hogan death. I refused to separate the art and the artist. And I'm like, man, this guy's killing me with his racism. But can I wish well an athlete that I've covered forever to end it on any better way than freaking ducking like this? Come on, you know what I mean? Come freaking on. All right. I saw a question come in here from Brody. Let's hit this before it gets too lost in the shuffle. You going to Canelo-Crawford, BC? Enjoy it, brother. I just ordered Netflix for a month. Well, shout out to you and your Canadian brethren over there. I will be in Las Vegas next week. It wasn't originally planned. Who the hell is John Israel? That's John Africa's cousin, obviously. No, John Israel, shout out to him. I think he still works at ESPN. His dad was one of the original, they call them the 79ers, the original group of 30 employees that started in 1979 and made it all the way through the 2010s or what have you, and have like their name retired in the stone in the center of the ESPN campus. Kind of decent right there, but well done on that joke right there. Yeah, so I am going to be there. Hold on, Zoe's got to exit. It's just mayhem to start. I got people at the door. I mean, there's a lot going on here. Hold on one second. Let's hear from Rafe. Right?
You just touch gloves. Why do you need to touch the gloves again? You just touch gloves.
All right. I mean, it was the bug guy, the mosquito guy. All right. Thank you, mosquito guy. So yeah, I wasn't going to go. I mean, full disclosure. You know, my job at CBS changed a lot after the end of 2023 when Showtime Sports was sunset and the focus was really pulled off of combat sports. But right place, right time, less than 2 years later, here we are. Combat sports is back at CBS Sports, and it's not just the UFC deal that will start in January on Paramount/CBS. Rumors potentially maybe of Zuffa Boxing getting signed. I'm waiting on that announcement too. But, you know, the focus is back on it. So I'm super excited to get a chance to go to a fight this big at Allegiant Stadium. I believe UFC is running a pretty cool couple day Radio Row type deal where they'll have big time guests all day. So sorting out those production details with my employers right now, but hopefully I'll be on the ground ready to produce content. Okay. It's weird. It's like I went this long stretch of not traveling to cover fights, only traveling when I'm a broadcaster at the fight. But to be able to get back to this role in a big setting, it's you know, taking off the hat, put on the old hat, but I'm ready. All right, there we go. Blood and beer. BC, will CBS have any interest in picking up MK and getting you donks a Pat McAfee type deal? I don't know the answer to that. There are a lot of things that will be happening between now and January at a very expedited pace. This deal, you know, if you follow the tea leaves on this, literally kind of dropped in out of nowhere. And it's going to cause some big change, some really big change in a short time. So I'm excited for that change. I'm bought in on this change. I mean, I didn't sell out. I did buy in, but, you know, they came to us and this is where my career is heading. And as I like to say, it's playoff time. The kids just started their senior year this past week. First cross-country race of the season yesterday. All right. Big performance there. So it's playoff time. It's time. Somebody's got to put these kids through college. And guess what? It's gonna be me, right? Right? All right. There we go. So let's win. Let's just win, baby. Let's go. It's a new dawn. All right. It's a new dawn. But if anything did happen, I would fight for the Jan 6 date, Reggio. Okay, you're damn right I would. All right, there we go. No, I mean, to be honest, I don't know what the future is going to bring. Whether I really don't. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. So we'll see. But you know, would I like to cash in? yes, I would. Right? I don't know about you guys, but I like to work hard and get big rewards for it. It's pretty rewarding, you know, and then provide for the family. You know, the worst thing is not being able to provide. Brody says BC with Pat McAfee money would be a dangerous combo. Yeah, it would. What do you got, Monzo? You and Rafe, please be on press row. I wish Rafe was going here. I'll ask him on the show tomorrow. Like in the past, Rafe has because, you know, unfortunately, the biggest heartbreak is that for all of our history podcasting together, you know, Rafe has barely made a dime from this. A lot of times, you know, we both made salaries at ESPN when we started our first show at Grantland, but you know, there were times where Rafe would you know, pay his own way to Vegas and we'd cover the fight together and podcast there, and it was fun. But I don't think he's going to this one. I mean, I wasn't going until just recently, but I love that man just the same. What do you got, Steven? BC, how many times will Max Kellerman mention the story of the fight to explain bad judging? I mean, I wonder if the judging will play a factor here. We're going to find out. But I hear you on that. He's invented a few of these, tropes, these Kellerman tropes that, I'm not saying it's always for worse, but the story of the fight, I kind of like his whole theory that boxing is everyone's favorite sport. If you put four sports, one on each corner, you know what I mean? Like the biggest tennis match right there, the biggest basketball game here, the fight, everyone's going to end up watching the fight. And maybe there's something to that. But man, can boxing do anything worse over the years to prevent you from even knowing what's going on that corner? I don't know. What do you got, J Ray? MK rebranding with new host Randy Cooter joining us at noon. Yeah, that's going to be a solo show in the end of the day. We already know how that one ends. There it is. Also from Telvin, BC will definitely be cage side for UFC events and in the locker rooms, especially in the straw weights. Well, I don't think they're going to grant me locker room access, but go Dern if you're a fan. Big fight, big rematch coming up with Vierna. All right. So yeah, I mean, look, it's hard for me to speak on anything in the future. One thing I do know is that CBS Sports will have a major presence covering UFC moving forward, just like you would expect when ESPN has the television deal, when Rogers Sportsnet in Canada, which puts which puts our guy Bronstetter on the road constantly. When you're in that seat of the coverage provider, of the partner, look, there are things to be gained from that. The type of coverage you're doing changes for sure, in some degrees, but to get a chance to be back on the scene, I mean, I went to so many UFC fights covering it for CBS in my first 3 years there, coming off of a stretch at ESPN, for 2 years where I was covering, the end of the McGregor prime era. And that's exciting stuff. It's a different skill set in a sense, but it's exciting stuff. So let's do it. All right. My second topic. Okay. What do you got here, lazy bit? I could see BC being the Lee Corso of MMA program. Dude, seriously? And this is what I always tell my wife, because, in this era, we ain't getting pensions. All right. We ain't getting any guarantee that there's going to be money at the end of the road. So, I mean, this is something honestly that I've already, sort of calculatedly been working on for almost a full decade. The idea that one of the rare jobs that you potentially can sustain is being an on-air personality. I mean, it's rare, of course. There aren't many Vin Scullys and Dick Edinburghs, pushing 90 still working, or Chick Hearn, or, in boxing, Larry Merchant was working until he was 84. Barry Tompkins up until a couple of years ago at 83. These are the legends of the legends, but it's possible. Dick Vitale, I'm sure Teddy Atlas is going to be in front of a microphone until he can't speak anymore, right? This idea that whether you're working yourself into the bit of being the goofy grandpa or the longtime historian expert or whatever it is, I do always tell my wife that don't worry, our pension's going to kick in at the end when I'm still cracking bad dad jokes to stay on the air. That's the goal. We'll see what happens with that. All right. Yeah. What do you got, Monzo? Are you scared that UFC might fire you like Ariel? Well, Ariel's situation was certainly different than mine, in every single way there. But did I have concerns at the outset of the deal that having a critical voice in recent years could I don't know, set me back, hold me back, throw me back? Yeah, sure, of course I did. But at the same time, I try to believe that I've been fair in print. I mean, podcasts can be a different thing, but is everyone consuming every second of my content? Probably not. Do I feel like I've done things in a journalistic way and tried to play both sides when it makes sense? But also, I was doing my job. I was paid to have a critical opinion at CBS Sports on big topics in combat sports, and I did that. So I don't believe this will hold me back. I don't think it should. Other people have had other longtime beefs with UFC for different reasons, but I'm trying to do my job the most honest way I can. There we go. There it is. All right. My second topic. It's UFC Paris this weekend, and you got to be fired up. You got to be really fired up, because it almost feels like, even in this era where a lot of these fights feel assembly line-ish, especially when we're at the Apex, It feels like playoff time this weekend. Even though like it's really no different than any other situation where there's a bunch of contenders in a division. This time it happens to be middleweight. And this time it just so happens that Dana White has previously gone public and said, we got a lot of people, that are pushing for that title shot. So why don't we do it this way? We'll have Kyle Bahalio against Nasruddin Imavov this Saturday in Paris. We'll have RDR versus Fluffy coming up. Whoever looks the best out of there is going to get the title shot. I mean, you can argue that's always sort of the default setup in a lot of ways, but announcing it the way that he did, with this division being red hot, with a new champion coming in after a dominant win, it really does, maybe because we're coming off of a bye week as well, it really does amp up the expectations for Saturday. This idea that you not just have to win, you got to potentially win dominantly or look great in doing so. And when you look at this fight, this is a true ass 50-50 fight. I know Bahalio is a slight betting favorite to Imavov, but I really feel like after watching tape on both guys and, and looking at the numbers, like this feels like it has all the potential to be a 5-round decision where you're kind of going, how, speaking of Barry Tompkins, how do you like it, right? Who did you prefer? Maybe a performance like that, maybe a split decision performance in a close fight might not be enough to get the nod if there's a big finish in RDR versus Fluffy. Who knows? But you can only beat who they put in front of you, and you can only do what you can. But do I think both gentlemen will have a pep in their step knowing what's at stake? Of course. Both are red hot. Imavov riding that 4-fight win streak. Bahalio unbeaten in the UFC, 7 wins, 2 wins in Dana White Contender Series, but hasn't been as active as Imavov. You can argue Imavov's beat better competition, although a lot of people are poking holes in that better competition by saying Adesanya was too old. However you want to slice it, this guy's got a little bit of edge here. Bahalio's more well-rounded. But what about Imavov's chin? I mean, there, who's gas tank? Who's ground game? Even when you look at the stats, they have the same arm and length reach. Imavov 2 inches taller, but this is going to be a very interesting fight. I don't know if it's going to be super, super crazy exciting. It may be a physical chess match of sort of, trying to draw the other one into taking the lead and countering. Going to see a lot of calf kicks. We know that. But I love the predetermined extra energy and stakes and buzz put on here. The wild card that I feel that I'm not sure enough people are thinking about or talking about is that, well, if this plays out as close as I think it could, will the judges be swayed by the home crowd of Imavov, who, Dagestan born, raised in French MMA? Well, I mean, I don't know. That could be an interesting issue. Will one of them bite down on the idea that, no, I need to separate myself from this opponent and the other guys here? Either way, you gotta love this card for a fight night. Good, love it, strong. I love when they go back to France, whether it was Bellator, PFL, UFC, after all the years of it being banned there. So I'm excited. This co-main event is going to be fire between BSD and Hoofy. The future of lightweight in some cases, we're going to figure that out a little bit more. So I am fired up. I really do feel like this is a close ass fight coming to us in this main event, and I want to see it. I want to get going. I want to get ready. So let's go. Okay, what do you got? Blood and beer. UFC Paris. How familiar are you with Losine? I'm probably butchering it. I'll learn it. I'll learn it soon. Losine Keita, and how do you think he will do versus Pitbull? So he's 16-1, comes from the Octagon promotion, has been dominant there, and I have heard the buzz before his signing. Have I watched, am I Caposa? No, I'm not that. I don't have as many hours put in that area, but I do wonder if this is the perfect opportunity for him coming in against an aftermarket Pitbull, who, yes, bounced back from not the stinker, but, the underwhelming performance in his UFC debut against Yair Rodriguez, knowing like literally a potential title shot was at stake if he came in and blew the doors off. Bounces back against Dan Ige, shows you that he's still got a certain amount left. If this guy Losine is the goods, the real goods, you wonder if you're catching an aging name at the right time, and you can really show that and make a leap forward. That's what I want to see. And on the flip side too, Pitbull can go 2 in a row and can really improve his chances there. So I heard a lot of I'm gonna be watching more tape on this guy as we get into Friday's MK show, and I'll let you know more about what I think. But I'm ready. All right. Cosmo, what do you got? Covering fights in the Dakotas as bad as it sounds. Are you referencing the Showbox card I did in Deadwood, South Dakota? That was a wild weekend. All right. That was wild. I love that stuff. That was the thing I loved in my 2 years on Showbox. You're not going to Vegas, LA. You're going to, I never did Sloan, Iowa, or Miami, Oklahoma, or some of those other ones, but I did Deadwood. I did a few of those, and it was gnarly, weird, wild, and I loved it. I really did. All right. I believe that we're gonna open the floor now. So there's just a couple quick topics from your boy BC. How this will work from here is I'll speak till my voice runs out, and ask me whatever you want. So the super chat is a grift that is available right now. So if you want to support this chat and support what I do, you can do that. It may even get your questions answered quicker, or I may just never see it. So we'll see what happens. Roll the dice on that. Appreciate all you. All right, here we go. Let's hit it. Monzo time. What about Top Rank still broadcasting fights on ESPN Deportes? Yeah, so I've seen that they do that. They have a fight coming up with Oscar Valdez. I believe Miguel Burchell is making a comeback soon. I mean, look, for years, Top Rank has been very closely tied with Fernando Beltran and Zanfer Promotions out of Mexico. People have referred to it casual as Mexican Top Rank or whatever. So it's in some ways an extension of that. I hope Top Rank is going to announce their American TV deal soon. I hope that the delay is not a bad thing, but rather a good thing. I did hear the rumors of the network stars. I mean, who knows? It was Glazer giving you those rumors. So I don't know. I don't have the inside. I haven't been chasing that story per se, but I certainly hope for the sake of American boxing and the still very bright amount of talent that they have, young talent on the roster, that they're going to bounce back soon and announce this, because I mean, I say it on every stream, but like, I didn't think we'd be here right now with American boxing, like feeling like it's in the damn toilet and there's nothing going on. I mean, really, after this fight, September 13th, Canelo-Crawford, there's like one other big fight on the calendar, or two, I guess, if you think, or three. Okay, let's really do it right. One, I like the October 25th pay-per-view that PBC's putting out in Vegas. I hope to get a chance to call it, of course. Stephen Fulton versus Oshaki Foster for a title at 130. Fundora-Thurman. Maybe not everybody loves that. I'm interested in that. You definitely got Jake Paul versus Gervonta for whatever that's going to be. But even the real big card compared to those two in a lot of ways, this Ring Magazine 4 in November, which is going to have David Benavidez, Better Be Evan separate fights, and that fight that we all want to see in the co-main, Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. I mean, that's also going to be in Saudi, which is not great for American boxing. So maybe this is a weird calm before the reset on the new year when Zuffa Box launches, and we'll see how all the chips fall. But I felt like 3 months ago, this sport was in an incredibly better spot. American boxing was hurting. I didn't think it'd feel like the death toll that we're feeling right now. Good Lord. Boots and hose, baby. Investing in TKO is the best retirement. Well, look, if they're gonna take over in all three combat sports, and this is not something we've ever hidden in our coverage, that it's possible, and that it may become a point where you're either with them or you're against them. It's one of those things where you have to ask yourself. I mean, again, my situation is they came to my employer that I love, that I've been with for almost 9 years. So, if my employer is going to do business with them and this improves my lot, I'm super excited about that. But whether you're seeking them out or you fall into it, if they're going to be the power brokers and everyone, then you want to work in this game, in a lot of ways you are with or against. There's been so much change that I've stopped trying to, and it's a good life lesson, of course. I've stopped trying to control what I can't control. I've stopped trying to spend 4 or 5 months willing things to happen that I have no business or power to do so. Right. It's a great life lesson. Sometimes you just got to sit back and go, what do I believe? In my situation, I believe I'm working under a divine plan. You know what I mean? So, and there's going to be highs and lows in that. So let's focus on the good and let's get after it. All right. That's what I'm going to do. It doesn't mean there's not any dark moments. Doesn't mean there's not times I'm trying to, but sometimes you just got to take a step back and go, these are the cards that I'm dealt. I can bluff. You know, I can throw a few back to the deck and pluck, but I'm gonna play him. I'm gonna play him big. All right, that's the thing. That's the thing. All right, I've come too far to play it safe. That's the thing. I mean, I guess maybe it's playing it safe if you're joining the empire, but that's the turn on the road where it happened. So what are you gonna do? All right. I love YouTube. I'm on YouTube right now. MK's on YouTube. I don't necessarily want to be on YouTube 24/7 though. All right. That's the reality. That's the reality. Ooh, Lazy Bed with a compliment here. I really could see it. BC has an on-air shtick and persona that's only going to get better as he ages. Yes, unless I don't, talk too negatively about AI or cancel myself by accident. Yes, let's do it, Lazy Bed. All right, let's go the distance. No, really, it is my goal. It's my goal to live to 100. It's my goal to be on the air to at least 80. All right, let's go. Let's go. Maybe by then I can just plug in a new liver and I can keep going longer. All right. Shout out though to morningcombat.shop. Hopefully a few of you are outfitted in your Black Liver Society shirts. Thank you, Average Joe Art. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's go. MMA Fanatics here. Thank you for supporting me. Fantastic work there, Fanatic. Going into the first Tyson-Holyfield fight. Hell yeah. One of my 3 favorite boxing fights of all time. What was your prediction? And what was your reaction to the infamous ear bite in the second fight? Wow. What a way to just hijack this show for about 35 minutes, right? All right. We got a tissue in here. All right. Not picking my nose. No cocaine. It's just running. All right. It's just running. So the thing that I love so much about the first Tyson-Holyfield fight, 1996, MGM Grand Garden Arena, Showtime pay-per-view, was that was the make good for the greatest fight we never saw. The fight that mattered more to me in my youth than anything, even though it came after Mike Tyson being upset by Buster Douglas in 1990 and what was left of the myth and the aura being, flushed down the toilet. I mean, it wasn't completely flushed. He beat Razor Ruddock in back-to-back pay-per-view fights with some controversy in the first one with the stoppage. But what you still knew about Tyson was that he still had it to a certain level. And then you've got this upstart Holyfield, who we just never gave the fair shake to. Oh, you didn't beat Tyson. You knocked out Fat Douglas. You're just a cruiserweight. You don't have heavyweight power. So then we don't get that fight. It's scheduled for, it was going to happen in I think early 91. Then there was an injury. It was going to happen officially in late 91. They printed posters. I mean, it was ready. And then I think there was a second injury. And then suddenly Tyson's getting caught up in the rape trial and he's in jail. So that's always going to be the what if fight for me. What does that fight look like? And it's not even mountaintop Tyson. Like I said, I know that. But then we fast forward. Tyson comes out of jail. He beats, Bruno a second time in his third comeback fight to win a belt. He adds another belt when Bruce Seldon takes a dive in round 1. I said that takes a damn dive in round 1. I don't know if it was like the kind of dive where he got a loaded check or if he just was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Either way, that dude got touched and he was down and out. And it was this feeling that like, this ain't the Mike of old, but they had lined up people that he should have beaten and did that you wanted to believe again. And Mike was very popular at that point, where if you're a high schooler, as I was, 1996, my senior year of high school, NWO launches. I mean, this is counterculture peak where, yes, Tyson did some dirty shit and went to jail, but like you want him to recapture that magic because in some sense, it's recapturing, your early youth all over again. And Holyfield is considered old ass damaged goods. And we forget that. We forget that they picked Holyfield perfectly because he was coming off of that stretch where he loses to, which fight was it? To Michael Moore, where he looks like a shell of himself, loses the title, has sort of this heart issue, the fight against Bobby Ches, where he looked just awful. And we would come to find out that it wasn't the heart issue it's hard to tell. Was it a heart issue was it healed by Benny Hinn praying over him, or was it misdiagnosed and he really had hepatitis like he had in the third Riddick Bowe fight? I'm not sure. But either way, it was almost looked at as like Holyfield's being propped up for the slaughter here. Mike can finally get that name on the resume. We'll keep it moving right there back to the undisputed championship. Although he was always going to have to go through Lennox Lewis. We knew this. And that was always going to be a problem dating back to when they knew each other as teenagers up in Customato's Catskill, gym farm up there. So coming in, my prediction was Mike Tyson was going to knock him out. I mean, and then, the first big punch of the first round, Tyson lands this huge bomb on Holyfield who kind of staggers. And I love asking Holyfield about that whenever I've interviewed him. But what an absolute genius performance from Holyfield. What you always have to watch that fight under the frame of that he was damaged goods. Nobody thought he can go 12 hard rounds anymore. People thought it was just line him up and Tyson's going to knock him out. And what we didn't fully realize at that point was how limited the post-jail Tyson one, fighter was, or maybe the experts knew, but I'm a high schooler without the internet. Any type of boxing coverage I'm getting is on Sports Center, right? So it's not like I'm tied into things on an incredible level right there. USA Today every morning in my house, right? But what makes that fight so magical, and you got to shout out Hall of Famer Steve Albert on the call. It was him, Bobby Ches, and the fight doctor Ferdy Pacheco on the call for Showtime pay-per-view. Jim Gray, of course, really made his name Tyson Holyfield fight. I mean, made his name in boxing. Jim Gray's, been at every event in every sport for, multiple decades going on. But when Holyfield stands up to the bully, constantly crowds him and hugs him and frustrates him, is willing to fight dirty on the break and lead with the head, and essentially has a better game plan, relies on his technique on the inside, but at times has to out-bully the bully and out-fight him. And then you start to see in the second half of that fight, as Tyson's slowing down and he's getting weary, and then before he got stopped, I mean, that round before he got stopped, Mitch Halpern was the referee, the late Mitch Halpern. He got the shit beat out of him in that round. But as he's surging, Steve Albert's like, you are watching a sports legend in the purple trunks. It's just like this, yeah, oh my God. So I've said it a million times and I'll say it once more to you. I came in there, the biggest Tyson fan, always hated Holyfield, always thought he was dirty, always this, always that, and exited the biggest Evander Holyfield fan for the way that he did that when people thought he had no chance. So the rematch, because the first fight was a pretty damn good action fight. Now it became, one-sided as it rolled on, but it was a pretty damn good action fight. The rematch, we expected war. I could not have been more excited for that. That when you look back, my dad not being a sports fan, we watched a couple Super Bowls together, we watched a couple WrestleManias together, but I'll always remember the times we watched Tyson on the illegal cable box post jail time together. And this was the one, where we had been circling it for weeks, and it was just him and I, and it was in this little room my parents had added on off of the kitchen. And I'll just never remember. My reaction was like jaw to the floor. Like it's a very similar reaction to the Palace Brawl, in 2004 with the Pacers and Pistons. Very similar. But you'll never forget in these moments where you were, who you were with, and what happened. And my dad leaping up out of his chair and going and swearing, just swearing, be like, lock him up, lock that motherfucker up. Tyson needs to go to jail. He's dirty. Like, because we've never seen stuff like this in a boxing ring. It's crazy that was like the end. I know Tyson would resurface for the Lewis pay-per-view, and a lot of his fights after this were on the pay-per-view level, but he was suspended for a while. He was never the same. He was in full meltdown mode from there on out. You can really say this did a lot of damage, this fight, to boxing, American boxing, the idea of having boxing on national television. The sport, because this was, a year after that Bo Galata, not Go Galata, Riddick Bowe, Andrew Galata brawl at Madison Square Garden. So, like the black eye was suddenly getting darker for boxing. But yeah, man, you'll never, ever. That's just so imprinted. And this was like the fight. This was the rivalry. So to get it 5 years later with all these extra circumstances and have Holyfield go from, lamb at the slaughter to knocking Mike Tyson out. And then this, and what was crazy too was in between the bite and the fight being stopped by Mills Lane, it was an insane action fight for like a half round, you know, and there was all this extracurricular stuff. It's part of what I loved about boxing, the craziness, the unpredictability. I mean, I was watching live through the squiggly lines when Fan Man happened in Holyfield 2 a couple of years before that. I love the chaos, but this was such extra chaos that it was just like, you know, it's very similar to the rare times that you've been in public situations and like a crazy fight breaks out or police come running in. You know, it's like, I was thinking, you ever like have something triggers a memory? Had this like memory triggered of Christmas Eve when I was like 8 or 9, driving home from my aunt's house, and like these cops came out of nowhere and cut us off and pulled over a car in front of us, and they're getting out with their guns, and there's like a shootout, and I'm like, my dad just like put it in reverse and we went the other way. I'm like, did that even happen? Did I dream that? No, it did. It really did happen. It's like one of those moments you're like, this is real. This is real. That's what it felt like watching that. All right, I won't hijack the thing anymore with this topic, but thank you very much. Thank you. There we go. What do you got, Serenity? I don't love it, but I'm picking Imavov. All right, let's go on the record. Serenity now, going Imavov. There we go. There it is. I got to catch up on these comments. All right. There it is. There it is. Michael Panza. Wow. Welcome, dude. I don't know. Have you been here before? Did we initiate you in here, Panza? Do you still work for PBC? I can't believe it's been over 10 years since Heyman launched it. Kind of a failure in Michael's opinion. I don't think you can really call I mean, look, what PBC did in year 1, 2015, buying all the time buys on every network, having that huge kickoff press conference, which I was at inside the Saturday Night Live studio, that it looked like they were taking over boxing. I mean, we were talking back then about what Zuffa Boxing is going to do now. Will PBC put out their own title belts? Will they, you know, basically do an us against them type thing? It never became that. And maybe, you know, I mean, look, the one thing we can't get is an Al Heyman sit down interview. No one can. It's a decision Al has made to make it about the fighters and not be available for public to really, you know, I would love if somebody would do a documentary on, you know, even Floyd and Al Heyman's influence in there, or PBC, so we could learn this. I'm not sure if that original plan in 2015 ever could have worked, but to call it a failure when they bounced off of that, got the Fox deal for a couple of years, had big time programming on national television in 18, 19, 2020, and then while keeping up that very good run on Showtime that ended in 2023. I mean, those last few years, PBC was the best thing going in boxing. So hard to call out a favorite. Do I still work for them? Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. I'm on a fight by fight basis. We all are. And that's just the reality of where they're at right now, where we are at as announcers. If they call me for October 25th, you're damn right I'm going to be there, though. Okay. I have covered a lot of PBC in my time. I have done some of my biggest moments in television in my career have come because of PBC. So I'm always going to have love for the people that work there, for the fighters. And a lot of those guys are, you know, on their last legs right now. You know, Danny Garcia is just going to have his final fight coming up. He's going to promote his own main event at the Barclays Center and have a goodbye fight. You know, it's the last days for Spence, soon for the Charlos, right? Like all those guys are aging out. Thurman's on his last few big ones. So, yeah, it's been great, but I can only wish them well in terms of, you know, fighting and staying alive right now. They still got some fighters that we care about, but and they still got a TV deal that's got a, you know, big exposure, at least pay-per-view wise, but things are changing quick, man. I hope they're able to bounce with that and keep it moving. Yeah, I don't know what this is about, J. Ray Oxygen. Did you see Dwayne Johnson lost 60 pounds of lean muscle? He definitely did not get diagnosed with cardiac issues and was told to get off the sauce before he dies. Oh, okay. I hear the sarcasm there. Yeah, I don't know. First thing when you see that, when you see someone so jacked, suddenly so thin, is there an illness? Hopefully not. That's an interesting theory you have right there that you say definitely didn't happen. Is there a role that he's preparing for? I mean, look, he's definitely taking a more serious turn acting wise. You can see in the reaction to him crying and the standing ovation just the other day at that film festival, that for the Smashing Machine, you know, about the life of MMA legend Mark Kerr, that Dwayne took this, you know, and you see the comments coming out from him. And I always put Dwayne Johnson comments, you know, with a grain of salt because he's Dwayne Johnson's biggest fan, but that this was the role where he realized I have to go all in if I want serious roles. So is this him thinning out, preparing for the next super serious role. I don't know. It is interesting that this movie was originally talked about publicly after it was finished that it was going to be this horrible debacle. And now people are like, maybe it's got Oscar capabilities. I want to see it. I want to find out for myself. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's happening there. All right, hold on. Why don't you check this USB stick with Ray for a second, okay? You just touch gloves. Why are you going to touch gloves? Or I can probably figure out how to work this, right? No, forget it. Okay. Nothing ever works when you need it to. Am I already that old guy? Yeah, I guess I just became that. I'm already telling you to avoid AI, right? All right, we'll keep it going. What do you got, Brody? BC, fall and winter is great for boxing. You're kind of tripping. Am I? I hope it is. I really do hope it is. Okay. All right. I want it to be. I love the box. I live for the box. It's always back. Oh, there we go. It's on again. Why don't you take a break with this?
Jim, I gotta tell you something. Are these guys Russian or are they just in a hurry?
All right. We got the doors closed. We're back. Okay. There we go. All right. No more shenanigans. Let's get into it. Nikki V. BC, are you going to do anything special for Canelo-Crawford? Let's see here. And that's the thing I'm trying to go. BC not fresh off of nose beer. Okay. BC off of these allergy turns right here. Am I going to do something special for Canelo-Crawford? Well, like I said, we're finalizing the plans. I'm hoping to get a cameraman out there with me. So I'll be, updating on CBS Sports HQ the entire week after all the big press events. And this will be obviously a big one. The press conference will be big. The final weigh-in will be big, all that stuff. They are having 2 days of Radio Row opportunities on Thursday and Friday next week at the host hotel. So I'm hoping to be able to get a crew and be able to score big content opportunities for CBS Sports there. Of course, we're going to have morning combat for you Monday and Friday. Monday live from New York City. Friday, Luke and I will both be in Vegas. So the plan is that hopefully we can do that episode together. And then, of course, I'll have an Inside the Box one tomorrow, one next week. In terms of any types of big specials or beyond that, this kind of came together very last minute. So I'm riding the wave. And yeah, RIP Stream East, right? Did Dana finally achieve this just as pay-per-view died? Now we're taking down all the streamers. You know what I mean? Wow, it's wild. It's wild. All right. What do you got, Sandine? Grandma had that illegal cable box. My uncle gave it to her. We always went there for pay-per-views. Yeah, I mean, when you've got that, I never thought my dad would get that. That was not how he was wired to do that. But once he did it, it changed my life. I think we got ours in I want to say 90. Yeah, because 94. Because I didn't watch the first 3 UFCs live, but I started watching everyone beginning with UFC 4. And it wasn't just movies. It was, WWE, boxing, UFC, crazy one-off events like Howard Stern, New Year's Eve, whatever. And movie-wise, whenever a movie would exit the theaters, come to pay-per-view, it would be on a loop 24 hours. So you'd end up watching parts of every single movie that ever happened without maybe ever watching them in whole. But it changed everything for my combat sports fandom in so many ways. It really did. In the years before that, I used to watch the pay-per-views through the squiggly line, doing the old method we would do on the Spice channel, which is tape down the nickel over the power button. Because what would happen is you'd have channels on your cable box that were pay-per-view channels. If you press the number to go to them, then it'll be, what happened was for a split second, you'd see like a squiggly black and white screen with the sound, and then it would bring on one of those guides, like the TV guide channel type of things. But if you were smart, you learned to tape the nickel. And I don't know why it was always the nickel that worked best. Maybe the weight of it. You tape the nickel down over the power button so it kept it at half mast. So you had an opportunity to go full math. No. So, you know, you're watching whether it's like the Spice Channel or like, you know, I mean, I watched so many fights in the early 90s through that. And it has to be the closest thing to growing up back when boxing was king and everybody's huddled around the radio for, you know, for Louis Schmeling 2 or what have you. You know, Marciano versus whoever, because it's like listening to it on the radio. Sometimes you can see, is that a boob? Is that a shoulder? Is that a knee? But Foreman versus Holyfield, I watched that way. Bo versus Holyfield 1 and 2 through the squiggly lines. I think that, yeah, because 2 was right before. 2 was a couple years before I got that box. Sandine knows because he's old. That's how he knows that. All right. There we go. There it is. All right. Jim, are these guys rushing or are they just in a hurry? Ha! All right, there it is. Yeah, there it is. All right, thanks for that. Let's keep getting after it. This is my guy, Joe from Run Dem Cheeks. Always got the best music questions in this chat, right? Appreciate you, Joe, for your support always. Hope all is well for you. I think Joe was an ex or former Marine. Am I right, Joe, or was it Army? I don't know. It's like Coast Guard, maybe. I don't know. Rent-A-Cop. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for your service. All right. Besides Kiss, says Joe, what is your least favorite gimmicky band? I mean, not all of my least favorite bands ever are gimmicky, but I get the line of question that you're going here. I mean, are the Spice Girls a gimmicky band? Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's just start off. What are my least favorite popular bands of all time? Kiss, the B-52s, U2. Sorry. I mean, I did Walk Down the Aisle to a Beautiful Day, or the exit song at my wedding was Beautiful Day, which my wife like forced into it and now claims she doesn't know who did that. I know it was you. Anyway, it was fun. And I used to say REM until I came around, right? But gimmicky bands, man. I mean, I've never loved is Guar a gimmicky band in a lot of ways? I mean, is the idea of a gimmicky band being a band that is more popular because of, I guess it's the same way that you're looking at like a pro wrestler or a pro wrestling tag team. Are they gimmicky because of who they are and what they wear when the substance isn't good? Some of those bands I mentioned that I just dislike because of either the lead singer or a specific song. I mean, it's not for lack of talent. It just wasn't my thing. Gimmicky can be, yeah, boy, a lot of people coming out with this. Let's hit it right. Arturo knows here. Boy bands to me are very gimmicky. I mean, there was nothing bigger in my youth than New Kids on the Block. And then of course that would give way a decade later to the prime TRL boy band run that was super gimmicky. Sugar Ray is kind of gimmicky, meaning that, they're purposely going after those pop-ish hits that will stay in your head and be able not to leave. Maybe I liked Sugar Ray because I did see them open for 311 in 1997, right before Fly hit. And I was like, oh, these guys aren't that bad, but I'll put in that same category, like Uncle Cracker, Kid Rock, very gimmicky, very, 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 I mean, I hope my dad doesn't hear me besmirch Kid Rock like this, but you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, come my lady, come my lady, right? You're a butterfly. Yeah, lazy, but I hear you, Crazy Town. U2 not gimmicky. I just hate Bono more than anything. All right. It's the truth. Obviously I've had, I had the greatest hits at one point. I'm a big fan of the Octoon Baby album. My dad played the crap out of that when I was a kid. I certainly know about their prime 80s run for sure, in their prime hits. I just, man, we all got those bands we just can't pull the trigger on. I won't do it. But then sometimes we break through. I mean, I did that with REM. You know what I mean? REM to me was like, was all their, some of the early 90s hits they had that were so damn annoying. And I'm just like, and then, you don't realize how great they were in their prime until you do. Okay. So yes, Brody, I know the Joshua Tree you cannot deny that. No, you cannot deny that. All right. You cannot. All right. I'm with you on that. That's not gimmicky, but Kiss is just so damn gimmicky. I mean, I like the fun of gimmicky hip hop groups that have those hits that are just, Sir Mix-a-Lot, right? I mean, it's like that. That doesn't mean you couldn't go album by album and appreciate it. I mean, I love gimmicky stuff. I love Third Base. I love crap like that. But to me, it's very gimmicky. Thank you, Icarus. Yeah, Shiny Happy People is like, get off of my airwaves. And I didn't really realize how great of a song Losing My Religion is, and how important the use of the mandolin was in the intro of that song to really maybe it was Michael Stipe wearing all those political t-shirts at that MTV Music Awards in the early 90s, where I'm just like, I just want to watch spring break coverage with boobs, right? You know what I mean? Is that too much to ask right there? All right. All right. What do you got, Brody? Worst popular band is Blink-182, Green Day, stuff in that genre. Yeah, you know how much I hate the late 90s, early 2000s rock scene. To me, even though I can identify their true talent, I watched their Netflix documentary, Nickelback. Hell of a gimmick. Okay, that's a gimmick band to me, right? A lot of that stuff. Blink-182. I mean, look, what I'm about to say is even sacrilege, and I don't really fully mean it. But even Green Day to me is kind of gimmicky in that punk pop. I know that they're like the legends in that space, and I have enjoyed some of their tunes through the years. And I know that there are people that think of them, way above. But yeah, it is what it is. Okay, I mean, disco's gimmicky. I mean, even yacht rock's gimmicky. A lot of it. I mean, like I always say, any genre that starts, you're off the start going to get the art of it, and then it will evolve into more bastard secondary pop retreads of the same, style and substance. Okay. This is Pratik Muhammad. I want to play Air Supply at my Pakistani wedding. I ain't taking no requests. Yeah, I love that. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. All right. Monzo, baby. Luke's Wi-Fi was effed up. Yeah, we had a good time with that on our special Tuesday episode of MK. I mean, that's the way Luke Thomas is wired, right? The production difficulties are never his fault. If I'm late for the show or have McDonald's Wi-Fi for 2 seconds, it's the biggest story. But when it happens to Luke, it was fun watching that dude squirm. I don't wish ill will on Luke Thomas, but yes, his Wi-Fi was effed yesterday. I mean, all you can do is have fun with it, right? All you can do is make it part of the gimmick and the joke and the show. We are known for difficulties throughout the history of our show. Jay Aaron was the cause of a lot of those back in the day, although Jay Aaron was also the cause of a lot of technological advancements that kept us going right there. Speaking of Luke, Kevin from Chicago says, has Luke Thomas ever threatened you physically? No, he has not. He has not. I don't think I would take that in this friendship or this working relationship. Have we had spats? Yes. Have we had? Yeah. Well, it's a marriage, of course, no, nothing physical, nothing, no threatening of violence, but you work through that stuff, and we've had a fantastic partnership, but no one needs to be laying any hands. All right. Balloon Fart. REM was my first favorite band as a kid. I can't believe I missed it. I can't believe I didn't know how good their first 2 albums were, and they've had a lot of great albums after that. I can't believe I didn't. Let me throw it up here. Let me go to All Music. Let's look at it. Okay. Let's go to the discography. Okay. I can't believe I completely missed it because I allowed Michael Stipe's annoyance in a Bono-like manner to get the best of me. But 1983's Murmur is a 5-star freaking classic. 1984's Reckoning, which is really the 1B to the 1A of Murmur. It's the same sound. It's almost as if it came from the same session, is a classic. I debate still to this day which one is better. But even, you keep going. I mean, the third album, Fables of the Reconstruction, is the weird one because it was produced by that weird dude and the vocals are so suppressed, but it's still pretty damn good. Life's Rich Pageant in 1986 is a 4 to 5 star album. Very good. We all know Document in 1987. And Green right after it, 1988, was when they really started to get their pop muscle together and really were figuring that out. But not only does Out of Time, the big commercial breakthrough in 91, deserve more respect than it gets, Automatic for the People in 92 is a bona fide 5-star album. And, that was the album along with Out of Time the year before that they were getting all of that top level success, and all that attention on MTV and radio and beyond. And that was the time I was just sort of like, man, F these guys. But what I missed was that Automatic for the People album is just killer. I even like Monster from 94 when they tried alternative rock and went after. My dad used to play that one all the time. I have not gone past Monster. I've got an REM shaman, my God, Mark, who lives in town, who I talk to at cross country meets, and we go up and down there. I haven't married the whole lineup, but please take the Pepsi challenge on the first 2 albums. It's just, it doesn't even sound like 83, 84. Yet it's the best rock and roll that was coming out of that new wave, early alternative rock era. All right. Oh, damn, that's good. There it is. Thank you. All right. Lazy Bed. People don't talk about damn Yankees enough. Yeah, well, it's kind of a super group, right? You got Ted Nugent on lyrics. You got Tommy Shaw from Styx on guitar. I'm sure there was some other names in that. High Enough was a great song, great video. That was a bad time in rock in some ways in the late 80s there, but yeah, I got respect for damn Yankees. Okay, you want a gimmicky band that I know a lot of people love and I know they get a lot of respect, but I just can't do it. Styx. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I know that there's times that they rocked. It wasn't all Mr. Roboto. I can't. I've tried. I don't want it. I don't want it. That's another one, Joe. Take that. Okay. Rewind it back. There you go. Oh, this is funny. Lord of the Pies. I've never been high enough to want to listen to them. Yeah, well done right there. Fly me over yesterday. Right, Zoe? Tell them about it. Zoe, you into like this one? The back scratcher with the wheels on it? Yeah, there we go. There we go. She's back. She's back. Yeah, Arturo, I'm with you. Crisscross was totally crossed out and dope. I bought that cassette in 8th grade. It was really good. All right, it was really good, but it was gimmick. It was, I mean, all of early 90s hip hop was gimmick. That's why a white kid in the suburbs like me was all into it. I certainly can I certainly can appreciate the true classics, the B.I.G., the Tupac, the Tribe Called Quest, for sure. For sure. All right. All right, Lazy Bed, what do you got for me? Thank you for your support here. You Midwestern teenager. I appreciate that. Favorite autumn pass. So the autumn is, and I've been up and down this. As a kid, summer is the best. And then you get old and you're like, summer's hot as balls, right? Right. Just like when you get old, you're like, I don't know if I can do another Connecticut winter. And here I am, I'm 47, 46 of those were spent in Connecticut. One was spent in Pennsylvania, and even worse winters there, not far from the Pocono Mountains. So the thing about New England is, Connecticut too, especially, you'll get all 4 seasons extreme. It's extremely cold and snowy. It's extremely rainy in the spring. It's extremely humid and hot in the summer. But fall is the perfect time. It's extremely perfect, right? So yes, cool air, leaves, soup season. So it's got the pinnacle, the mountaintop of fall is the best holiday, Thanksgiving, right? No gifts for anybody. Everybody comes home and you're focused on the 4 F's: football, family, friends, and and effing. No, just kidding. And if you're a dirtbag, you'll go to Valley New Year. You go to Thanksgiving Eve, the best bar night in America, when everybody comes home. I'm old now, but back then that was the thing. So my favorite autumn pastime, once you start dating and getting married and doing the apple picking and all that stuff, that stuff's fun too. But really, to me, I think when I think of autumn, I think Thanksgiving. I think of the best hiking season because the leaves are changing / falling. You can start to get, more views when you're hiking at elevation, more mountain views. I think of high school football, which, while I don't follow as aggressively now, not only was I living it in my high school growing up, the rivalries. I became a high school football reporter for newspapers for a long time to start off my journalistic career. That's what I think about. I also think about pumpkin everything. The temperature just being, it's sweatshirt season. It's the best time. It's the best. New England, really, it's not overblown to say it. Fall in New England is magic. It really is. So Lazy Bed, my favorite pastime is, I love hiking, but I love even more than hiking. I love drives. I love to just get in the car, have no plan, drive and in circles for 2 hours up mountain roads with the sunroof open, the tunes playing. Like, that's what I'm talking about right there. Okay. Thank you very much. The cool air. It's great times. It's peak living. It really is. All right. You know, other places where it's hot as balls, you have like super hot season and regular hot. New England, you're going to get all four punched right in the face. It really is true. Right. BC, do you like Ween? 4 years just for weed? Damn. I do like Ween. So Bronstetter has been trying to get me into Ween forever. He even, because he's such a great dude, he really is. He sent me a package of records, and one of them was like Ween. It was like a triple live album of Ween's early stuff, which is awesome. But the two Ween albums I've done the most time with, based on my Ween shaman, of course, the great Aaron Bronstetter, you know, who we don't always cross paths on everything musically, but we get down enough, is of course their best one, 1994's Chocolate and Cheese, which, you know, you'll never forget that album cover when in the 90s. Of course, it's hectic, it's chaotic, but it's perfect in so many ways. I have started to get into as well the Mollusk, the one from 97 that also Bronny loves. I kind of paused that journey that I was on, but I do need to restart it. And Chocolate and Cheese is just, I mean, you know, it's around the same time of one of my 10 favorite albums of all time, which is 40 Ounces to Freedom by Sublime. It reminds me of that record in a sense because the genres change song to song, and it's so aggressively that genre for each song. Obviously, when you're talking about Ween, you're talking about tongue in cheek, you know, constant ridiculousness too. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Project Zeb. Without Ween, SpongeBob wouldn't be the same. I never got into SpongeBob, so I don't know all the ins and outs on that. All right. Trying to figure out, are you guys talking to me or are you talking to each other here? What's going on? Let me try to star some of these. Yeah, doctor said I need a backiotomy. He slept with my mama. All right, what the best movie of all time. Back to Brody. Winter is the best, BC. Listening to Radiohead on winter nights is religious. Dude, I can't back you on that because I'm becoming such a wimp to the cold year by year. There are parts of winter I do love. I do love it. I mean, look, I'm a homebody. So the best thing I've learned to love about winter, my wife, when I met my wife, she finally showed me that, like, you can have fun in winter, like winter hiking with snowshoes or whatever. Like, that's all great. You know, that's great. I do love that. I don't ski, so that's a problem. But I love that. Like, we're not going to do anything for 3 months. We're going to load up on some good alcohol. We're going to watch movies. We're going to, you know, you don't have to get in shape. You can just put on the extra sweatshirt. Yeah, there is a sort of thing about that. But to what you're saying, Brody, I've been off Radiohead a bit lately, you know, because you just float. You know, I do try to plan my music direction, but then there's those other days where it's just like, man, just show me where I'm going. Just like I'll follow the lead, right? And wherever and I put on In Rainbows last night without, you know, I wasn't playing video games, I wasn't doing anything. I just put the headphones on, put on In Rainbows by Radiohead, and just absorbed it. Had the discipline to just absorb it. Damn. You know, this really makes me want to do what I've been threatening, which is update my favorite albums list of all time and go as high as even 20 to 25, just so I have a working base here. What really do I like and love? How much has that changed in the last 20 years? I can't imagine a scenario where In Rainbows is not a top 10 album for me of all time. I mean, it's so damn good. It takes you on a journey. So yes, if that happens in the winter, Brody, it's a physical journey too. You know, it's man, I can hear Jimmy, but like I can feel it. I can feel it. All right. Let's go. Old man Dave, my guy out here supporting me live. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. There it is. Appreciate the content, BC. It helps make a tough day of wiring. Are you an electrician, Dave? Or are you just tying up women after you've paid for them? I mean, I don't know if that's fair. It's probably not. After a tough day of wiring, go much faster and be much more fun. Have a gas station glizzy on me and my dog Chatri. Is that really your dog's name? Wow, that's fantastic if it's the case, okay? That's fantastic. Great stuff, Dave. Thank you for the support. I'm glad. You know, trying to spread joy is where I'm at in life. Okay. That's all I can do. That's all I can do. I can try my best. I try with bad jokes, but not everybody likes that crap. Michael Beal, I wish Shannon Hoon didn't have to go. I mean, come on, and you're right. Where would that band have been? Where would that band have been? Where would I know Sublime's back with Bradley Newell's son, which is just awesome, and they're touring and they're making new music, which is just awesome. And I haven't gotten into it. I haven't given it a try, but where would Blind Melon be? Who would Sublime have stayed on being? Even you can go as far as Nirvana, obviously. It sucks. The 27, the more you get into 60s and 70s music, the 27 Club is the worst thing that's ever happened. It robbed us of so much. I mean, at least like with Jim Morrison, the Doors really gave a statement, a group of albums that was a statement. But with Hendrix, it was so small, so short, and it was over. Joplin, so many of these people. Blind Owl Wilson of Canned Heat, damn, Brian Jones. And I know he, at that point of his death, he had already worked himself out of the band by being such a drug addict and having mental issues. But when I finally went deep on the Brian Jones Stones era, I really realized how wrong I was to basically blame him for introducing Hendrix to heroin and robbing us of Jimmy. You realize how important he was. All right. Let's keep it going. Chris B is here. Chris B is in the house. Thank you, Chris B. All I hear, Chris says, is the smaller man narrative, but no one mentions the fact that on paper, Bud is a half-inch taller and he has a 1-inch reach advantage. I'm almost certain on fight night, Bud will look bigger. I have to say, we ran that Netflix promo during Luke's technical issues yesterday on MK. And I did, and every once in a while, we haven't seen they better do it soon, but we haven't seen what Netflix and UFC is going to roll out in terms of like pre-fight doc series. Are we going to get a countdown embedded thing? What's going to happen? Hopefully we get that stuff soon so we can start, we can start churning. We can start getting ready and getting people fired up for this fight. But sometimes in these type of things, one comment or one expression or what, it plants a seed. When Bud said, yeah, putting on the muscle doesn't mean I have to be slower. Also, it means I'm going to be stronger. You do have to start asking yourself, is Bud going to try to do something crazy, like lean into his power and come in here against the counterpuncher, looking to counter the counterpuncher and load up? These are things that we're only going to find out in the ring. But Bud is not going in here as a wiry junior middleweight. He is going to go in here as a strong fighter. So what will that mean? I hear what you're saying on the idea that, look, I think to your point, Chris, in the face-offs of the 3 press conferences, which did get increasingly more edgy, I guess you could say. You did notice that Bud did not look like a small man next to him. Now, obviously, Canelo's typically the shorter fighter in these bigger matchups. He's known for the thickness, right? It's more about the girth than sorry about that. Yeah. I do wonder, yes, the story of this fight is size and the difference between them. But will that not be a factor in the end? I don't see how it couldn't when Canelo has a legendary chin and knockout power, proven knockout power at 68. So I don't know how it couldn't. But if Bud can prove, and he hasn't been active and that goes against him, unless it doesn't, does the inactivity help him because we haven't seen him at this weight and he's had all this time to put that on? I don't know, but it's getting me fired up, Crispy. All right. It really is. I have to still think the size difference will still matter. It has to. But am I prepared, even if I pick Canelo, which I'm leaning toward right now, am I prepared that it's possible? Yes, that Bud can do this. Yes, if anyone can do this, Bud can do this. We know that. That's why we're excited for this fight. That's why we're not talking down to this fight. All right. Steven follows by saying, if Bud given into his dog mean streak, he gets KO'd bad. Canelo's knockdown of Berlanga was lightning quick. Yeah, that's why I can't pick Bud, because I don't think Canelo's past it. I think Canelo's still got it. I think he's been on autopilot. We talk about this all the time. He's not going to be on autopilot for this one. But also, Bud has a dog. But to your point, Steven, if Bud can't hurt him, he's going to have to box. Maybe even box boringly. I don't know. I don't think Bud will try to, what I don't think Bud will do ultimately is roll the dice that a boring boxing style will get the nod, because it never does against Canelo. Why? In a lot of ways, because Canelo lands such efficient, hard counter shots, so that even though the activity isn't high, all of the shots matter. They move you for the most part. Interesting stuff. All right, let's keep it going here. The outside world's calling me, but they're gonna have to wait. All right, we made plans right here, right now. Let's go. What do you got? Pratik Muhammad, he's back, folks. Broke up with my girlfriend because she complained about me seeing Jeff Beck and Buddy Guy in 2016 instead of seeing a Taylor Swift show. What a wretched wench. All right, that's a loaded comment there about that woman. Let's let that go kindly. But you got a chance to see Jeff Beck and Buddy Guy in 16. That would have been awesome. A huge regret for me is not realizing until my pandemic vinyl dive what made Jeff Beck so great. I always knew Jeff Beck from his Yardbirds work, from the 2 albums he did with the Jeff Beck group with Ronnie Wood and Rod Stewart, that there's a reason why he's in a lot of people's top 5 of the greatest guitarists of all time. But it's not until you fully embrace his jazz fusion turn and the back-to-back albums of Wired and Blow that you realize, he's up there, in my opinion, with Hendrix and the others. I mean, he really, really is. So I do regret not finding a way to see him before he passed in recent years. I really do. So shout out to you. Hopefully, this is half joking with this lady, but would I choose Jeff Beck over the girl that you dated that wanted to go to T Swift? Yeah, I would. So thank you. Good choice, I think. I don't know. All right. Dude, Saul, this is a great question. This is a great ass question from a guy that we know, we love, and he's a credit to his community in Louisville. Unless he's wanted and he's on the run, that could happen too. But we're a big fan of this guy just the same. Saul, support in the chat by asking, if you don't like Kiss, nah, bro, I don't. How about the movie Detroit Rock City? Dude, along with Outside Providence with Alec Baldwin as one of the sleeper stoner comedies of the late 90s, just an absolute sleeper of the late 90s, early 2000s, I have to say Detroit Rock City is an awesome movie in that realm. The same group of dudes that I was watching the same VHS tapes on loop of Half Baked, of Austin Powers, of whatever, we also were watching Detroit Rock City, or probably DVD by that point. Yeah, like I got my first apartment in June of 2000. I definitely had Detroit Rock City on DVD, and it was part of the rotation. Yeah, that movie is absolutely hilarious. I can tolerate Kiss's contribution to that movie, definitely. And I love Detroit rock scene in general. I do. I really do. And it's not like Kiss can't rock or doesn't rock. And I've had rock friends that I know very well go, I know what you think about Kiss, but try this album, you'll love it. And I don't want it. So, I don't want it. All right. But I will watch that movie. I haven't seen that thing in decades. Is that the one with the battle shits? I was spitting out my drink laughing at that. All right. That's great. All right. Thank you, Long Island Luke. It was a banger. And also, yes, thank you, Intangible. Almost Famous is better. Yes, it's a way better movie, but it's not a stoner comedy. I think Almost Famous, Cameron Crowe actually tried to make it a great movie, and I think it is a great movie. And yes, Spinal. So, dude, I saw the trailer in the theater the other day for the new Spinal Tap, and I am pretty excited. I haven't watched the first one literally since the 80s. I don't know how that happens. Like, I have more gaps in my movie watching than anyone I've ever met, where there's just major all-time great movies that for some reason, despite having the illegal cable box, despite living on HBO in the 80s at the time where they played the same 12 movies on loop all the time, somehow I didn't see. I never saw first Jaws, until 4 days ago when my son and I went and saw it in 3D for the 50th anniversary in the theaters. And it was everything everybody ever said and more. Jaws is like the best movie ever. It rules. And I'm like, what happened? What happened here? It was great. Great. I mean, great movie. Danger. Never saw it. All right. Two Changs, my guys, back. Detroit Rock City did a good job tricking the youth into thinking Kiss were cool back in the day. Fair point. Very, very fair point. Yes, one does go. It goes to 11. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for DJ Serenity for having our back on the Kiss right there. And no, intangible. I did not see Gene Simmons' sex tape, even though I love Shannon Tweed in the 90s more than anybody. That guy's disgusting. All right. Thank you. Oh, good call, Mustache Dad. So Harold and Kumar was battle shits. Then what was there is a bathroom scene, spoiler alert, in Detroit Rock City, is there not? I think there's a tremendous bathroom scene, right? Did I make that up? You guys are going to have to, yeah. All right. I was wrong on that battle shits one. I'm sorry about that. Okay. By the way, first Harold and Kumar, legendary stoner movie. Legendary. In fact, I love turning that on long, I don't watch a lot of movies on planes, but if they got Harold and Kumar one in the menu, I'm turning that thing on. All right, let's go. All right. Let's hit it up from Yo Mama 69. Thank you for your support of this here podcast. Sup BC. Don't want to make you feel old. You can't do anything more. All right, I'm 47. It is what it is. I was born on the same day. Whoa, Yo Mama, you young as shit. Yo Mama was born on the same day of Hopkins-Trinidad. Was that a week after 9/11? Seriously, in 01? What do you most remember about the build to that fight and the fight? So unfortunately, the distractions of 9/11, not to mention that was a window, that stretch from like 98 to like 04 was my weakest stretch of boxing fandom of my adult life. Part of that was I was more addicted as an NBA fan than anyone ever was to anything. Maybe only second is my addiction to the Beatles during high school. And, had my first apartment, was an absolute degenerate. And I was still going over the same group of dudes' house to watch the big pay-per-views. We watched Tyson Lewis in 02. We watched Holyfield Lewis 2, I believe. But I was not really right after Prince Nassim started to, I think the Prince Nassim HBO run was that last stretch there in the late 90s that I wasn't diehard, but I was pretty much in it. But I had missed the build to a lot of these fights. And when I got head over heels in 04 into boxing, like I'd almost never been before, from putting on the gloves and headgear and sparring, I went back and filled in all the blanks that I had missed. Hold on. Zoe's got to go again. That's how they operate. They don't care. They really don't. Heard Keith Thurman was going to be here. Sounded boring. Found the man. Still sounded boring. Yeah. You got to go, Zoe. Okay? You got to go. There you go. So, that was one I certainly picked up after the fact. I do remember the guys I watched boxing with going nuts of the fight before this. Remember, this was a 4-man middleweight tournament that Don King put on, and the William Joppy fight, which is still to this day is one of the fights that the loudest the Madison Square Garden ever was for boxing. Some people say it was Trinidad Mayorga. Some people say it was Cotto Judah. A lot of people say it was Trinidad Joppy, where the garden, the Puerto Rican fans were just, I was there for Cotto Margarito too. That was a party more than it was a fight atmosphere. That was revenge night for the Puerto Rican fan base. But I don't specifically, I didn't watch this fight live. I wasn't following the storylines coming in. This was a fight that I watched a few years later, but the absolute brilliance of Hopkins in here, who 100% took the blueprint that De La Hoya laid out 2 years earlier against Trinidad at welterweight and used that at age 36 or 38, to pull that off, to take his career to a whole new level. What a great fight. I can't believe you were born then, but I'm old. So, my kids are going to be 18 in a few months. It is what it is. All right. Thank you. Great. One of the great singular performances in boxing of my adulthood. I put what B-Hop did to Trinidad in this fight almost on the level I put Crawford versus Spence, for just Damn. Two Changs hit me. Man, the B-Hop-Trinidad fight, main thing I remember was 9/11 had just happened. Yes. Also, I would come to find this out, I think, by watching was there a Legendary Nights on this episode? Was there a Legendary Nights on HBO episode of Trinidad Hopkins? I can't remember. But what I do remember in hindsight, like when I went back and rewatched the whole build of this fight, was did anyone have more balls than Hopkins inside that stadium in Puerto Rico for that press conference, of which he took the Puerto Rican flag and threw it to the ground and then literally got chased out of the stadium by a mob of people and was able to survive without being stomped to death? Like, that amped up this fight in a lot of ways. And even with 9/11 happening, this fight still was big. And I think for a lot of people, it was one of those first sporting events that they came out, post 9/11 in New York. And yes, Icarus, Tyson got absolutely wrecked by Lennox. Just a beating. I think he landed that one big punch in round one where we were like, come on, Mike. And then it was inevitable. It was inevitable. It really was. Sandine's got a zinger here. Speaking of bathroom scenes, I heard they renamed the boys heard they renamed the boys' room at Joseph A. Banks to Ground Zero. Wow, that's good stuff right there. That is good stuff. All right. Let's go over to Rally Sport 92. Thank you, sir. Thank you. If you're a man, are you a man? Yeah, thank you. Greatest heel of all time, he asks. Iraqi Slaughter. It was a hell of a heel. I mean, he was getting like legit death threats in real life. Hollywood Hogan or Rock. I would vote for Vince. So I got into a big debate with some like old school wrestling fans I respect a few years ago on who actually is the greatest heel of all time. So Hollywood Hogan is my favorite wrestler of all time. There's no question. One of the greatest heels ever. But some of that still was just the cool factor of seeing this all-time babyface make the turn in such a dramatic way, lift the business up with him, Nash and Hall and Bischoff and what they were doing with the NWO, and making this rivalry of WCW versus WWF. So like, it wasn't so much about Hogan as an actual heel, even though, let's be fair. He was cool as shit as Hollywood Hogan. He had figured out, off the old school gas, how to still be cut, ripped, tan all the time, wearing, the black and white NWO gear, which was always badass, and then coming out to Hendrix the way he did, whether it was Voodoo Child, whether it was Third Stone from the Sun. I mean, just that was so badass. It was ridiculous. But even though he was a part of, the greatest heel faction, and they did constant heel work for sure, and the black and white promos and all that stuff, that's awesome. And by the way, I still got to get him on here. Mark Raymundi's book is very good. It really is about what NWO did to pro wrestling culture and American culture by proxy. But, he wasn't like a dastardly nasty heel. The Slaughter thing was, I mean, as gimmicky as it gets with, Vince McMahon leaning into the political times as he always did. But like, that was drawing real heat, right? But the debate I'm talking about is there are a lot of people who believe that Vince is not only part of the greatest storyline and rivalry ever told, the run he had opposite Steve Austin, that pulled WWF out of the Monday Night Wars into full supremacy to where they crushed and killed WCW, but that this notion that Vince really is the greatest heel ever. And you know what? For what a POS Vince is and all that, it actually might be true. I mean, who was better at creating that emotion of being the rich, double crosser of, is Vince the greatest wrestling actor ever? And I don't mean in the movies. I don't mean, is he better than Batista or Cena or Rock in real movies? I mean, playing the role. Yeah, Vince might actually be the best heel in the history of it. And that's crazy that like the owner, the owner's son who took it over, who waited until his early 50s to suddenly have an in-ring career, and then was not just having an in-ring career, was concussing himself like crazy, blading like crazy. Like, it's wild. It is wild. It really is. And yeah, say it, Icarus. Say it. We know it. It's true. Macho Man, an incredibly great heel. Yep. And yes, the Yeti. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Great question, Nikki V. Who does number 2 work for? Would you let real question, BC? Would you let Luke do number 2 at your house? Yeah, I guess I would, but I'd be nervous. I'd be very nervous. All right. I'd be very nervous. All right. That's great. Yo, MG, what's up? What's up from East Windsor, Connecticut? So MG, I've had very little experience with East Windsor, Connecticut, although it's right on the Connecticut River, the largest river in New England, baby. But I will say, I go to the record store in East Windsor a lot. Seabug's record shop, upstairs of that antique shop. Shout out to Chris, the owner. I do enjoy that record store a lot. So thank you very much. Brody, hit me with it. I'm a big Tito fan. Hopkins winning the fight was actually worse than 9/11. Well, that's a mouthful. Wow. Steven, man, who decided those early 2000 marker ads on the back of boxers that would disappear with sweat? Those were bad. I mean, the fact that even Bernard Hopkins would have goldenpalace.com on there, that era was shameless. It really was. I mean, I'm sure WWE or TKO is probably taking notes going, oh, we should do that right now in WWE and UFC. Let's bring that back. Let's head over to Intangible 79. Has BC climbed Mount Marcy yet? Doubt it. So Mount Marcy is the tallest mountain in New York State, upstate. No, I have not. It is. I want to. I never hiked like my whole life. Then I meet my wife. We get married really quick, and we get married at age 28. And I did like most of the great hiking of my life those first few years. And it just slows down, and you get kids, you get dogs, you got a mortgage. There are things I haven't done. And that is certainly one of the peaks that I would love to hike. I would love to. I hiked Camel's Hump in Vermont with my wife. That's like a 4,000 footer. That was a strenuous but wonderful hike. I really have yet to really explore either the Catskills or the Adirondack Range in New York State. I really have no excuse. I live so close, but if we go for a trip, we're going to go to New Hampshire. We're going to go to the White Mountains, or we're going to go to Vermont. So I've slept on New York State, and I should get out of that. I should get on it. I should get on it in a hurry, to be fair. Thank you. All right, this is Matthew Garrett, MG, we call him in these parts. Thank you, sir, for your support of this podcast. Is this the longest stretched with good UFC? Pay-per-view to pay-per-view. They are on a great stretch right now of main and co-mains. You got to give it to them. But no, it's not the greatest stretch. I mean, how good was 20? I mean, were you alive in 2016? 2016 was everything. And there were a few of those runs. There really were. There were a few of those runs. It is really good though right now. And I'm happy because it's in an era where matchmaking hasn't been, week to week great. We have too many cards. We have too many warehouse cards. But yes, it is very good right now, and I'm into it. It was really good. Remember that stretch leading into UFC 300, 297, 298, 299? That was a really fun stretch too. But you're talking about the longest stretch. I mean, God, can we go back and look at 2015 and 16? It was just, I feel like it was all killer, no filler. Am I going to go back and see all these holes and be like, oh, that wasn't that great? I don't think so. I really don't think so. But like a lot of people, I'm really hoping that the Paramount era kicks off with an absolute bang. I hope they do some gimmicks early too. I hope we get Jon Jones back in a big fight. I hope we get McGregor Diaz 3 on the White House lawn. Like, let's go. Let's do this thing. All right. Yeah. Lazy bet. That's a terrible take. Ooh, his take, my take. What are you talking about? Oh, you're probably talking about that. Yeah, Telvin, 2016 to 2017 was the greatest pay-per-view run ever. Yeah. I'll basically go mid 15 to the end of 16. It's just I mean, luckily for me, it coincided with me, as I told the story many times, becoming going from backup combat sports editor to lead MMA editor at ESPN, then somehow ending up in the, front press row at every big fight, being the columnist for the site. Like I just fell into an opportunity back then. And I thought it was a wrong step in my career. And I thought it was taking me away from what I really wanted to do. And I didn't realize it was opening up the door. And that's what I'm trying to embrace this turn as well with what's going on, and just lean into it, because that stretch in 2016 of being at those cards was just incredible. Just incredible. You'll never forget the buzz going to there. I remember thinking that there were times at McGregor fight weeks where the press events were better than pay-per-view. McGregor press conferences were more wild, energetic, and out of control in person than big time pay-per-view boxing fights were at that time. Like, it was just wild. All right. Yeah. What do you got, Garrett? Thank you again. The tat still hasn't been rated. The tat. Are you the dude that keeps sending me in the tat of the breast milk thing, and we haven't had Luke rate? Did I not? I thought I put that on there. I thought we showed that already, Garrett. Are you sure? There's times even when I put clips on there and Luke's like, we already did that on Have You Seen This Shit 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, I forgot. There's times I get mad when every day people send me the same clip 17 times. I'm like, yo, we put that on last year. What do you want? Did we not do that one yet with the baby and the thing? I don't know. I thought we did, bro. I don't know. All right. Don't kill Matthew Garrett for that question. It's fine. All right. It's fine. All right, let's go over to Yo Mama again, 69. This man was born in 01, brother. 01. Wow. I was 23, yo. Thoughts on Fundora-Thurman and the card? I feel Fundora, did I just say Fundora and then said Fundora? I guess it's better than when I called him Fonfara twice in the last fight while calling the fight. I feel Fundora wins, not counting out one time. Shock Foster Fulton in the fight is going to be very good technical fight. I like this pay-per-view. Is it a all killer, no filler? No, but I really like it. Look, I like the Fundora-Thurman matchup. I want to see what Keith has left. Prediction wise, I think you should probably believe Fundora should be the favorite and maybe could knock Keith out, but Keith has only lost one time. Oh, that's his nickname. To Pacquiao, and I scored that for Keith. So did Judge Glenn Feldman of Avon, Connecticut, who was one of the 3 judges that night. But I like the main event. I really like the co-main event, to back up what you're saying there, of Foster versus Fulton. This is Stephen Fulton Jr., who was the unified champion at 122, lost badly against Inoue in that undisputed clash, moved up to 26, beats Brandon Figueroa in their rematch, wins the title there, and is now going up to a 3rd division and facing a very decorated, solid guy in Oshaki Foster. That's going to be a very interesting fight. Really like that. We got Jesus Ramos on this card and a middleweight step-up opportunity against Shane Mosley Jr. for an interim title, which, the winner will get in line here for a title. I don't hate that at all. For Ramos, it's like, he's been around 54. He's been ready. He hasn't gotten that big breakthrough fight yet. Go up to 60 and get it. Shane Mosley Jr. has earned that in recent years. He's turned his career around. Then you got what do you call it? Tony Harrison's back. So Tony Harrison signed with Dimitri Salita. He had that comeback fight in Detroit. Now he's going to be on this card. And could they do a Charlo Tony Harrison trilogy? I like those type of old guy fights to close out a rivalry. This isn't that fight right here. We'll see what happens. Hopefully I'll get the call. Hopefully I'll be on the call for October 25th. Is this pay-per-view going to sell gangbusters? Probably not, but I'm certainly interested in seeing it and seeing what happens here. All right. Lord of the Pies. BC, have you ever been to a Woodstock event? Woodstock 94, 99, etc.? No, I have not. So Woodstock 94, I had just finished my sophomore year in high school, and there was no way I was doing that. Plus that summer I got in trouble for having a party at my house when my parents went away, and it was a downhill. I had to pull out. It was a long way to pull out of that to get back my parents' trust. In 99, I was, that was the summer I turned 21. A bunch of my friends did go to that. I'm really happy I didn't go to that ultimately because of the debacle that it turned into and how hot it was and expensive and all of that. So I'm happy I didn't go to that. As I've stated many times, I went to Bonnaroo in 2005 and it was awesome. The Black Crowes reunion was the highlight for me. That concert in the rain was incredible. I saw My Morning Jacket, Kings of Leon, so many great bands and shows. The year before that, I went to Austin City Limits Festival in Austin in 2004, and that was 10 out of 10 tremendous, because the thing about Bonnaroo is we went in a camper. Two guys slept in a tent outside, and then I slept in the camper with another guy, and it was my uncle. Shout out to Uncle Dave. And at that time, I was only drinking, and I feel like if you're only drinking and not getting into other stuff, then it's great to see all these shows, but then when it's done, you still got to go back and sleep in a tent or sleep in the camper, right? There was something about Austin City Limits as a music festival where you're at this freaking massive festival, and I saw so many great shows. Wilco, Trey Anastasio, Modest Mouse, Drive-By Truckers. I mean, on and on and on. And then at night, and then you're staying in a hotel, and at night you're going out on 6th Street. You know, I'm sure it's hell now on 6th Street, but back then it was wildly fun. So that was a great, great time. I've never gone to a festival since then, but you know, I'm old now, but that's fine. Two Changs, ACL is awesome. Went from 06 to 12. Nicely done right there. Yes, they had some very, very big acts. I saw Ryan Adams there, Sheryl Crow. I could keep going. It was great. It was really good. Old 97s. Really love that band too. People don't talk about that band enough. Icarus says, Angels and Fuselage by Drive-By Truckers is a classic. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, and my friends get mad at me when I do this, I won't see them post Isbell. I saw the Drive-By Truckers like 10 times with Jason Isbell from 2001 through him leaving the band later that decade. So many of my favorite songs were written by Jason Isbell, and I was into them before he joined that band, you know, but like, and I do like their early stuff before him, but to me, he's that band. I saw them one time without Isbell. They opened for the Black Crowes. It was actually a good concert. It was Robert Randolph and the Family Band, then the Drive-By Truckers, and then the Black Crowes closed. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great Black Crowes concert because Chris Robinson got really angry at the crowd for requesting too many hits, and he purposely did a list of songs for hardcores only, and then wouldn't come out for the encore until they made him, because he had just broken up with what's her name's daughter, you know what I'm talking about, from Almost Famous, and he was bitter. When I saw them in 05 twice, once at Bonnaroo, once on New Year's Eve at MSG, that's a 10 out of 10 show right there. But I love DBT. I probably should give in and see him again. It's not like they're crazy popular anymore. I saw them for the first time. It was either 2001 or 2002 in a free concert in Central Park, opening for the Charlie Daniels Band while touring the double the Southern Rock Opera album, the double album. And that was, you know, Jason Isbell wasn't on the recording of that album, but he was on the tour for that album. And he was, you know, fat with Coke bottle sunglasses, drinking whiskey right out of the bottle. And I always tell the story that we showed up for that free concert. The guys I worked with were big fans of them, and I was just getting into them. And I was like, man, look at those dirt bags over there by the side of the stage talking to security, man. Get those guys out of there. Like, that's the band, actually. I was like, oh, sorry about that. I was like, man, those guys look weathered, right? But no, they were great. That's a great band. What is the best album there of the Drive-By Truckers? Give me 1 second here. This album, I saw them on tour so many times. Yeah, the 2001 to 2006 was the Isbell. Oh, that was shorter than I thought. 2003's Decoration Day, love that record. But the best one is the Dirty South, 2004. That is the one. And I think the song on there, Where the Devil Don't Stay, the kickoff song written by Mike Cooley. That's probably, really, to be fair, all my favorite songs are written by Isbell or Cooley. I got nothing against Patterson Hood. He's the heart and soul of the band. But the best songs from DBT are Mike Cooley songs like Where the Devil Don't Stay, Women Without Whiskey, Zip City, you know, stuff like that. And then obviously the Isabel ones are freaking classic, right? Outfit, Danko Manual, on and on. Decoration Day itself. Thank you. All right. Old Dave, you remember the Butthole Surfers? I do. So before even they had that one big alternative hit in the 90s, my Uncle Dave, one of my greatest musical shamans of all time, not Old Man Dave here, my real Uncle Dave, he was into them like way back when they were like, you know, is this band, and had posters up, and we used to make fun of the name. They were weird and cool, and I was happy they had a cup of coffee at the top with that song. How did that one go? Yeah, whatever. All right. Icarus, Southern Rock Opera is my pick for favorite. Yeah, that's probably my second favorite one. That's the album I fell in love with them, and it's great. It's fantastic. I mean, is there a better song live than damn, I don't have a memory anymore. You know, I try to fool my family into believing that it's really just a short-term memory problem, and that in 3 years I'll remember everything that was ever said, you know, but it might be a long-term memory one too. Southern Rock Opera, which has so many great songs, but is there a better live song than Let There Be Rock? That's probably my favorite Patterson Hood penned song, but Women Without Whiskey is just so damn good. Zip City, come on. All right, there you go. Enough of that. All right, Matthew Garrett's back at it. With the UFC Paramount deal, does that get MK back in the fold there? Want UNLT to win and keep growing, my man. MK day one. Day oneer right here. Again, as I and I appreciate the question. I appreciate the support of the podcast. Thank you, Matthew. Again, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if CBS is going to roll out a bunch of new stuff. I don't know. Well, the next few months will tell us. We'll see where we're going here. All right. But I'm leaning into the direction where it's going. All right. We'll see what's happening. And regarding my memory, Ham Sandwich says it's the gummies, BC. Yeah. I mean, I really feel like it was, before I got into recreational drugs. So like if I got into that side of the world, you know, in my 18, 19-year-old years, the memory and recall I had at like age 16, 17, 18 before that was like, it was idiot savant, insane level. And I got flashes of that still. And I'm still great on sports trivia and music trivia and all that stuff. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, you know, when I covered when I covered all three combat sports at an insane high level. So think about like my first couple of years at CBS, 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And I'm covering all three sports, doing podcasts for each sport every week, you know, 3-4 podcasts in total, watching copious amounts of hours of Japan wrestling and all this stuff. I remember thinking at that time, things are going to suffer. I'm front loading so much information in my brain, new information on a weekly basis. Not to mention when you go call a fight, it's like cramming for a week, you know, for this test, and you want to know everything. And then as soon as the fights end, you just drop that information out like it's never been in there. But I remember thinking there's only so much info my brain can hold. I'm constantly loading my brain with music facts and information and new albums and new genres and all that maybe that's the thing. I aggressively crave information. My brain does so at such a high, fast level, even to this day, that something's got to give, you know? And apparently it's everything I've ever experienced. So keep up with me. I may start saying the same stories in order if I'm not already doing that. Thank you. All right. Poetic Sin. Yes. Thank you for your support, sir. Giving a chance to go back in time. Which are you attending? A DX match in WWF or an NWO match in WCW? So what I can report to you is during the peak of the Monday Night Wars, I was attending stuff. I was a fan of both, but I was a bigger WCW fan. I mean, look, I always told you guys that I was lucky to be living where I did, you know, in Connecticut, an hour and a half out of New York City, that in the 80s, when I got into wrestling in 84, I had access for the ensuing years to WWF's weekly syndicated stuff, Crockett's, you know, NWA, which became WCW's weekly stuff, AWA After School on ESPN, world-class wrestling from Texas every day after school on ESPN. So, I had buying all of the magazines. I really knew what was going on. And WWF was always home. It was always, no one did it bigger than them. But, what got me out of wrestling the first time I fell out of it, really 89 leading into 1990, was when it just became too gimmicky, too cartoon charactery, and the product sucked. It was during that time that I loved WCW more. The rare times I watched wrestling between 90 and 95, I watched WCW, especially the Bill Watts era, because it was like real. It was like a fight to a certain degree. During the Monday Night Wars, what I wanted more at that time, because I was kind of done with the in-ring stuff, except for like the pay-per-view matches and the big story reveals and cliffhangers and turns. What I wanted out of mid-90s wrestling, the thing that got me back into a genre that I thought was dead and I thought I'd never touch again, was mic work, was the NWO, was Hall and Nash. I mean, why is Kevin Nash probably my third favorite wrestler of all time? Because the mic work he did, particularly with the Red and Black, the Wolfpack, there's just nothing I can compare that to in terms of what I love. So back then I did go to both shows. I went to pay-per-views for both sides. I went to Nitro and Raw for both sides. I preferred WCW, and it wasn't that they had better matches. Now they did. They had the cruiserweight division. You had Young Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Man of 1,000 Holds, Dean. Oh, you know what I'm talking about there. You know exactly what I'm talking about there. It was great. It was great. And they were edgier at first, and it was when Vince dialed up the edginess, obviously, we all started to go, okay, WWF is delivering more consistently. They've always had, in that era, better in-ring work in general than WCW. And then once WCW became stale, they didn't know what to do with the NWO. I ended up falling out quickly. I stopped watching WCW at the end of 98, was still watching WWF through most of 99, and then stopped altogether right around then. But if I could go back, I'd still go back to prime NWO WCW. There was just something about that faction, the way they booked it early on, the way that it was reality TV. I mean, so was WWF, right? They really milked the Montreal Screwjob situation. They really turned all of those things into their favor. That's why that rivalry was so heated and so hot and so great. But historically, I'm a WCW guy. I'm a pro wrestling guy above sports entertainment, right? When I go back on the WWE network on Peacock, the rare times I do, and I want to watch something old, I'm going to watch 89 through 92 WCW. I think they had a better roster. I think they had a better product then. That's what wrestling is to me. I'm going to go back and watch the Superstation studio shows from, the late 80s, like I did for 3 hours every Saturday night at that point. So it is what it is. Mora 503. Is this a female? No, probably maybe it's Sergio Mora. Thank you. Friend I went to school with claimed and his dad was Kevin Nash looking at him. Nowadays, it could very well be true. I don't get from your grandmother what you're trying to say, but interesting. Brody Moret, WCW had a boxing feel to it. It did. It really did. And they had Michael Buffer a lot too, but all right. Also, Brody, BC, you had NWO and Mike Tyson as countercultural figures growing up. All I had was Andrew Tate. Very well said. Very well said. And Icarus, I think Zoe made an appearance earlier, but not Red. Yeah, no Reggie yet. Reggie was here right when I was getting started, but he was already annoying me and knocking things over, so I scooted him. So Zoe, as I've mentioned, goes on these runs where she just claims me for like 2 weeks to a month, and she spends all of her time in my office until bedtime, and then she'll go up and sleep tucked into my wife. But Zoe's claiming me at the moment. When she's claiming me, she wants to be on camera all the damn time, and Reggie just kind of gives her space, but he'll be back in my life. You know that. I mean, if I go upstairs right now, Reggie's going to follow me, scream at the top of his lungs until I take his stick out. That's how Reggie operates. All right, let's go lightning round. Let's close this out. This has been a fantastic journey. Okay. Sydney Frankenstein, my guy. Thank you, sir. How do you get the attention of a t-shirt cannon? You got to act like an a-hole and wave your arms, right? One time one time at a Mets game in 99, one of my friends got like the season ticket parking passes where you like park like 50 feet from the stadium. Like it's like those extra ones you could pay for that are like super expensive. And, we sat in row 8 in the car, which was dangerous and not advised, in the parked car. And like cops went by on horses and then they double backed as they were watching this thing hot box. And we were like, crap, let's get out of here. So we went into the game fresh out of row 8 and the t-shirt cannons in between innings were launching. And then they had this thing where like the dude would put on the backpack that had a basketball hoop and they'd throw it to the people in the good seats and you could shoot it. So we were sitting in we were in the 8th row, but we were probably literally sitting in like the 6th row and like the third baseline. And I was like, yo, over here, standing up, jumping up and down. And the guy threw it to me and then I turned and fired it at his face as hard as I could. And that's such a dick move. I don't think I've ever told that story publicly. That was such a jerk move by me. I hit the guy right in the face and he just looked at me like, are you serious? I mean, I got a big pop from the section, but I don't, yeah. The other way is to just show there you go. You can probably get the t-shirt easily that way. Icarus, BC, you need to start your jazz journey. Dude, I started the jazz journey in mid-pandemic. I'm still, I'm hot and cold on it, but damn right I'm in the jazz journey. Lately I've been really big into the Billy Cobham solo records, Stanley Clark's solo records as well. I've been really big into. When we're talking about 70s jazz fusion supergroups, I'm definitely a Weather Report guy. I'm Jocko, for life. I love me some Herbie Hancock. It's just hard to buy those records. They're so expensive for whatever reason. And then of course I've made the small movement into Miles, and I always want to do that right. And yeah, I mean, I love some jazz. I'm definitely more jazz fusion than jazz, but I've got some of the classics too, for sure. Shout out to jazz. I mean, there's no music like it, especially if you're, a jam band guy like myself and you appreciate improvisation. And it's so weird because I really I can't play music for whatever, or I just can't think like, in the theory. And like, I don't think I have it. I don't think I have it. But I know I have it in broadcasting, and I know that like when I'm calling a fight, it's the closest thing to me of what jazz probably is for musicians, where it's just a feel thing and timing and knowing when to get in and get out and to compliment. So, I always I always feel like I'm a jazz great out there, just, boom, 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 when I'm saying the wrong name into a microphone. There you go. All right. From Matthew G, is Tom the Ali of MMA? Tom Aspinall? I don't know where you're going with that, Matthew G. Is Tom Aspinall the Muhammad Ali of MMA? Oh, yeah. Are you trying to say from the standpoint of a heavyweight with very good hands, with great hand speed? Yeah, I mean, okay, but we need to see a lot more out of Aspinall to make any other Ali comparisons right there. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Steven, and you're right, Danger Mouse. It does help if you got cans placed, but it does help. Steven, BC, who you got both 36 years old at 147, Floyd or Bud? It's such a great question. The 36-year-old version of Floyd is 2013, the guy that let's just say the guy that beat Canelo. The guy that I predicted would barely beat Canelo and would have to get up off the canvas. Instead, literally, almost shut him out despite CJ Ross's scorecard. I think I gave Canelo round 1 and then felt bad the rest of the fight, even giving him a close round because of how much Floyd just pissed on him. But there is something about Bud, especially offensively, especially with the backbone, especially with the ability to box with the long arms and fight on the inside. And if he had to rally for a KO, he could. That it does make it hard. The difference between them ultimately is that Floyd fought and beat such better level of competition across the board, even in the years when he was controlling his matchmaking. So while I know that it would be I've played this game for years, which welterweights in history would have beaten Floyd? Like I legitimately feel like 147-pound De La Hoya, prime 147 De La Hoya would have been a problem for Floyd. I legitimately feel like prime 47 Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns beats Floyd. But it's like, look, if he goes out there and beats Canelo, he's going to catapult to somewhere historically that we're not even prepared to put him in. And Bud is awesome. But Floyd had a way of, even without being as much of an offensive force as a welterweight that he was in the lower divisions with the hand issues and all that, he has a way of canceling you out that I'm still gonna slightly lean Floyd, even though what Bud did to Spence was just ridiculous. Yeah. Nikki V, your music podcast BC should be called In Rhythm with BC. In Rhythm with BC. I don't hate it. I don't hate that. Let me work on that. Yeah, I should get that thing launched, right? Let's go. Telvin, my man. Is this Key Papa? Is this Big Papa from the island of Kauai? That's my guy right there, right? Telvin says, if CBS gave you keys to be in charge of programming of combat sports on Paramount Plus, that'd be a nice job title. I'm sure that's some money with that. What kind of programs are you putting on? You know, something like ESPN with First Take, PTI, Around the Horn. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm certainly... I mean, it would be hard not to take all of the things I've loved about various networks' combat sports coverage and combine it all in a new version of it on Paramount Plus. What do I mean by that? Or actually beyond combat sports. What I mean is my dream for years, and I hope to one day be a part of it, is to have a Inside the NBA of Combat, a show that regardless of the network or promoter or what's going on in boxing or MMA on a Saturday night. Granted, you couldn't do it on these off weeks, but you know, let's say it's a big Saturday night where there's a UFC show and there's a boxing pay-per-view. Having one dedicated space with people who can talk, ex-fighters who can, you know, and having like a 3 or 4 man group there that has sort of the chemistry like we've built on MK, that is sort of the go-to place. I would first and foremost try to make that happen on Paramount Plus. And it be non-MMA or boxing specific. It would be combat sports, whether it's BKFC, no matter what's going on. Tune in Saturday night. You have a little pregame show there before all the fights start. And then as soon as the UFC pay-per-view's over, you come right there, right? That'd be great. I'd bring back for both sports, HBO, I used to host PBC Face to Face, which was just a play on the HBO one that Max Kellerman did. I think for every big fight, and UFC used to do that a lot. They'd have Joe Rogan sit between the two fighters or John Anik. Yeah, I think you have to have that. You have to have some form of a face-off there ahead of the big fight. That is the defense. I mean, when HBO had that series going, like, you knew that a week and a half or 2 weeks out or whatever the time frame was before the fight, that face-off thing was going to drop. And so what was it? HBO Face Off, and then it was PBC Face to Face, right? Am I right on that? Like, that was like, there were things you would learn about the fight from that interview. I remember like when Floyd and Victor Ortiz did theirs. I'm like, okay, Floyd's in his head. I can tell. I know where this is going. You know, it's like those things matter. I would do, remember when Ariel had great success on MMA fighting with the walk and talks with the fighters in their home city? I'd be doing stuff like that to get to know each fighter and try to build up their brands to be stars. There's a lot of things that I would program in there. I'd take some of the things that we did great on MK and blow them up now that you had, that's one of the exciting things in terms of like what type of coverage is CBS Sports and Paramount going to have related to UFC? What type of coverage will I be a part of related to this? The fact that we are going to have, I guess in theory, unlimited highlight rights is going to be awesome of what we can do with that. So I would use that a lot. I would make very fun, easy to digest content, bringing back the history of the sport, to new fans, to catching them up quick. It's not that UFC hasn't produced stuff like that over the years. They certainly have. They have those top 10 shows. They had a bunch of things, but that's the kind of stuff I would love to do. There you go. Thank you very much. Two Changs on this topic. Is 24/7 the greatest combat sports show ever? I think so. Yeah, I think it might have been. I will say Showtime. I'm a Showtime homer, but Showtime All Access was also great and also had great moments. But when HBO kicked off 24/7, we had never seen something like that before. And they had the right fight with the right players, with De La Hoya Mayweather, Floyd leaning so perfectly into that villain character. And I still cannot believe how many casual fans that weren't even HBO subscribers, because remember, they also eventually put that out on not only early YouTube, but they put it on regular television as well. Where like people were like, this fight isn't a fight, it's a soap opera, and we want to see how it ends. Some of those early ones were incredible. Yeah, you know what I'd also bring back? What's even better, Two Changs, than HBO's 24/7 is HBO's Legendary Nights. And the main reason why that franchise, why Showtime Boxing never had their own version of that, was because it was hard to get a lot of the highlight rights of fights that Don King was a part of. Because while Don King is still alive, he's still going to charge a stupid amount for a lot of the footage that you're looking to use. I would totally love to make something like that for the big, if I'm programming Paramount Plus for UFC to try to educate fans and bring them in, I'm doing that for Jones Cormier 1 and 2. I'm doing that for, all these great classic ones, Connor versus, whatever, but you got to get the right people to sit down and talk about it. That's the thing. We haven't really had, there's no one doing a Connor Habib documentary on the build to it, in which you have them sitting down, their trainers, people around them. That's, Brody makes a good point here. There's too much content nowadays. Nothing feels special anymore. Times were better back then, BC. You make a good point. You do make a good point. But done right, with endless footage, like the one thing WWE does really good now with their own documentaries, and they brought in, by the way, a lot of people from ESPN that were really good at that type of stuff that are now leading that charge for them, is they're using not only file footage you've never seen before, but like literal outtakes from their file footage. Like, the NFL Films does that better than everyone too, as well. I watched that Dallas Cowboys thing on Netflix, which had, I believe they had the NFL Films as a partner in that for footage, and the amount of footage that they're bringing back, like everything behind the scenes was filmed. That's the kind of stuff that you'd want to see come out of these combat docs. But can you imagine the way you could tell these UFC stories all over again to new audiences by doing this? It would be great. All right. Thank you. New York Mets, NYM, thank you for your support of this show. BC, you and Lug were wrong. Canelo versus Bud mostly has hype amongst hardcores, and in my opinion proves TKO and company are mid promoters when the UFC brand isn't involved. Well, the proof, as Floyd likes to say, will be in the putting afterwards. I wish there was more promotion for this, but you do kind of have to ask yourself a couple things. Like, one, they're not trying to sell pay-per-views. I'm not excusing them for not doing more. And like we keep saying, maybe this weekend is when they truly, maybe they roll out content, this weekend into next week that gets it buzzing on a new level. But one, you're not trying to sell pay-per-views. It's not the old model. Two, it's going to be live on Netflix, and a lot of people, and everyone's going to tune into Netflix in the days leading up, and this thing will probably be right in your face. So that's going to do a major thing. But three, if we find out they had to paper the house to fill that dome, if we find out a few things, then maybe you're right. But this is the UFC's first chance at something this big. I have to believe that they are positioned for success and that they are going all in. They just aren't doing it, I guess, the traditional methods that we're used to, but we're also not really used to fights being on Netflix. So it's a different model, a different idea. I'm not trying to protect them. I'm just saying it's kind of hard for me to be like, yeah, man, not enough people are talking about it. And then what if they roll out the launch of some pre-fight doc series on Saturday, and there's this and there's that, and then we're all, I don't know. We'll see. But if this becomes a failure in some form, or if the fight's really boring and then the numbers don't blow you away, and let's say Jake Paul and Mike Tyson do triple the numbers because Mike Tyson was involved and it was a freak show, then can we look back on this and say, yeah, maybe in that case, NYM, we can criticize after the fact. But for now, I mean, look, it's not a trash talk matchup. It's not a long-standing rivalry. It's sort of a created fight, but it does have historical elements. It does have two of the best fighters of this era. And it does have that thing you can't fake or recreate. that half this world turns on Netflix for their entertainment, and this thing for free, because you're already a subscriber, is going to be right in your face. If that brings together a massive number, then all this other pre-fight stuff wasn't necessary. I don't know. I mean, also Turkey's paying for a lot of this, and I feel like Turkey has had some misses in the way he's promoted stuff too, not fully understanding the American market. So all of that matters, but the results will be what they will be in the end. But thank you for your question. Devin, tuck that stuff in. Thank you, sir, for being here. If Jon ends up beating Tom, will all be forgiven? It's a great question. It's a great question. Of course, what I don't want to happen is that Serial Gain, beats or exposes Tom, even if it was a comeback performance from Ciryl Gane. Even if, right now we don't hold his stock that high. He laid eggs on the title level against Francis and Jon, and I don't think he beat Volkov last time. But we also know that Ciryl Gane is still a pretty damn good fighter at his best. So what if his best comes back, and what if the things we don't know about Tom Aspinall suddenly show up as not being great? Stamina, ground game, whatever. You're not going to find out against Gane. But my point is, there is a world that Ciryl Gane fights the fight of his life and wins. I don't want it to go down that way where Jon gets to do the I told you so without fighting Tom. I want him to have to go through Tom before we really know all the answers about Tom. But if Jon did that, dude, yeah, I don't want to say all would be forgiven, but he would be the GOAT of all time with a cemented stamp. You know what I mean? There wouldn't even be a conversation, that it almost wouldn't matter. And there's been so many of us that have wanted to give that to Jon because he has been the best fighter we've ever seen. And even though the second half of his career has had some of these missteps, not just outside of the cage, but taking 3 years off, all of that, he's still also proven that longevity wise, he's still pretty darn elite, even though the fight with Gane and Stipe don't give you the full picture of who he actually is at heavyweight. All would not be forgiven, but a lot would be. And we would give him the rightful recognition. And maybe this would be more of a footnote in the end of what he did to stretch it out. I mean, as long as Floyd's resume proves this. As long as fights happen and Floyd got the win, 10, 20, 30 years from now, it's going to just look like one Hall of Famer after another on Floyd's resume. It's not going to be about, but he waited, it's not going to be about that. And this is the same thing maybe with Jon. It's a great question, Devin Tuck. So maybe don't tuck that in. Maybe flaunt it. Maybe leave it out there. All right. There you go. Mohi Abro. BC, here's a wrestling question. On a deserted island, you can only watch matches of 5 wrestlers. Who are they going to be? Okay, so we're on a deserted island. I would get the full archives of the greatest matches of 5 wrestlers I choose. Who are they going to be? The Macho Man, Randy Savage. Mr. WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels. The greatest in-ring wrestler I've ever seen, Kenny Omega. Ric Flair. I mean, it's cheating. It's cheating, but Ric Flair cheating that because it's going over so many damn eras and longevity and forever. And AJ Styles. Because if I'm going to have the same sets of matches to watch and rewatch, then it won't be so. This is why I'm not picking Hogan. It won't be so much about the splendor and the moments and, Hogan versus Rock and Hogan versus Andre. It might be more about great in-ring work and wrestling. So that's why I'm choosing those. I mean, I've left out Stone Cold there. I've left out The Rock. I've left out, we've all got our favorites. Lazy Bed wants Bret Hart. We know how I feel about Bret Hart, but yeah, those are my 5 in-ring workers, the 5 best, and those really are my 5 favorite in-ring workers of all time. Omega, Flair, Michaels, Styles, and Savage. Yeah, I mean, can I throw Dynamite Kid in there? Damn. All right. A few more. Let's go. Jimmy Buttons, if I sent you a record, would you get deep in eighth row and do it blindly? You're damn right I would. Where is this? I bet Long Island Luke's been on me. We have a P.O. box now. We do. We have a P.O. box now where you can send stuff to. For MK, for BCX, for main card minute, whatever you got. All right. Let me put this on the screen if you care. Would I take your record? You're damn right I would. Okay. All right, here we go. Here we go, Jimmy Buttons. And thank you for your support. Thank you for your question. I'll put this in the banner here. All right. All right. Hang with me here, Jimmy Buttons, okay? Okay. All right. This is the MKPO box. So put at Brian Campbell, put at Morning Combat, put at Luke Nocita, however you want to do it. But if you want to send stuff to the show, you want to send stuff to me, you want to send some vinyl, whatever you want to do, that is it right there. If anyone's down, that's the game we're going to play moving forward. I appreciate everyone that I've ever, dude. Some of my, I'm still trying to track down that dude in London at the MK podcast festival there, who gave me the album Red by King Crimson, which might actually be my favorite progressive rock album of all time. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Appreciate all of you. Thank you. All right. But yes, Jimmy, I would listen to it. There it is right there. All right. Flash that again at the end of the show. Sandine says, BC, can we send Luke Thomas urinal cakes to that box? I'll make sure he gets them, particularly the used ones. Thank you. Well done. Well done, folks. All right. All right, here we go. Rapid fire. Let's get out of here. Yo Mama is back. Thank you for your support of the show. On my Roku TV, Yo Mama says they have channel HBO Boxing, which is just re-airs of old fights in 24/7 I grew up with. I grew up with 24/7, especially with Floyd. Good old days and nostalgia. I did not know that. I know there's a Top Rank channel floating around on one of these fast networks, these free ad-supported channels. I'm going to check out that HBO Boxing one. That sounds like a brilliant idea. Like just perfect, just perfection. I hope there's a Showtime one too. It probably isn't, but that'd be great if all these people rolled that out. Brody, BC, have you ever been to Danbury, Connecticut? The Danbury Trashers are the best hockey team. I know some tough Canadian guys who played for them. So yes, I've done a lot of time. I grew up about 25 minutes from Danbury, Connecticut, which is the border city for Connecticut on Interstate 84 with New York State. And Danbury, known like my hometown of Naugatuck, Connecticut, for having a very large Portuguese population and by extension Brazilian population, which is why Glover Teixeira has settled there, with his family and Alex Pereira and all that as well. Danbury, if you've watched the Netflix documentary, did have that minor league Danbury Trashers, not Thrashers, Danbury Trashers, because it was owned by the mobster guy who owned all the garbage collecting company, and he let his teenage son AJ Galante become essentially the general manager while still in high school. So, that was around 04, 05 when that was happening. They played at this tiny ice rink, and word did get to my hometown that there's something going on. And believe me, in Connecticut, we've not only having the Hartford Whalers growing up, not only having, it was known for being a bit of a hockey state and a hockey fight state. So we had the Whalers, which is the pro team, of course, in Hartford. We had the New Haven Nighthawks that played at the New Haven Coliseum, which was a minor league team that was known for fighting. So like so many of my family talked about like, hey, you want to go see the fights at the hockey game? Like that's how they talked about it, right? Like, and then of course, when the Whalers left, we got the team that we have now, which is the Hartford Wolfpack, which has been, I think, a New York Rangers affiliate for many years. And those games are fun too. But the word got out that this team in Danbury, which was like low-level minor leagues, was spending a lot of money for free agents and brawling at unforeseen levels. And obviously the documentary on Netflix was absolutely hilarious. Hold on, I'll get to that in a second. And was right on. One of my great regrets is I never went. There were many times that my friends and I were talking about going. There was this time that I was dating a girl who lived in Danbury at the time, and I was trying to match up the schedule with her schedule to go to one of that, having no idea how wild it really was. I do regret now that I didn't kind of become a regular, since I live 25 minutes away, and it was probably a handful of bucks to get into those games. But I dropped the ball on that. But yeah, I did go to the Danbury Mall like all the time growing up. It was there was always hot chicks at the Danbury Mall. You know, it was not bad. All right, what do you got here? Avergara 85. Thank you for this foreign money. Thank you, sir. Wow. All right. I don't know what that is, but thank you. A longtime donk hair came for LT, stayed for BC. That's what I'm talking about. The BBC with that BDE. He says, if you could take one album to a desert island, no greatest hits, what would it be? You know, I love debates like this. All right. So it's not my favorite album ever, but I've long debated whether this was the answer. Is it the White Album, the self-titled album by the Beatles? Is that the album that I would take for here? Just because it's so diverse genre-wise. There are so many songs on there. There are not just songs of, you know, of what was going on in music at the time. It was really their experimental album to, you know, go back to the genres they grew up with, to have experimental weird songs like Revolution 9, to, you know, just take chances on there. I mean, to this day, you forget how great that record is because you've heard it so many times to where it just becomes ad nauseum that you put it on in the eighth row the right time with the headphones on and you're just blown away. I wonder if I would still pick that. It's so rewarding in a lot of ways. That would be on my short list, and so would Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. One, because it's also a double album. Two, because it's their most mature, musically impressive album, not as aggressive hard rock bordering on, you know, early metal as their first record, or their, you know, or Led Zeppelin 2 and 4, which are such just powerful statements. But Physical Graffiti just, I mean, it's mature and it just flows. So it'd be one of those two most likely, because you're going to have to ask yourself, like, I'm going to have to hear this so many times and not get tired of it. That's kind of where the White Album would be, because I've probably heard that album more than any other studio album ever produced by anybody, because it was always played in my youth, like ad nauseum on a loop, seemingly around the house. Physical Graffiti, I had, you know, I did own that on CD at one point. I need to get it on vinyl, but I feel like I'm still even underexposed to how truly great that record is. Like every time I listen to it, I feel like I'm unlocking more of it. So that would definitely be it right there. Brody's saying AJ Galante was on Spittin' Chicklets Hockey podcast, and he mentioned he owns a boxing gym now, and I'm not joking. So yeah, he actually he tried to get into boxing as a manager first. I remember he was managing what was the guy's name? Frank Galarza? Was that the guy's name? He was a junior middleweight prospect about 10-12 years ago. And then I know he definitely became a local promoter, had his own gym there in Danbury, and maybe is still lingering. I think, isn't he promoting a fist fighting on skates league? I don't know if that's the one that BKFC bought into, but shout out to AJ Galante. I thought he did well in that Netflix documentary there, and he definitely has some charisma and has a crazy story. There we go. Connecticut in the house. I agree on both of those albums, both among my favorites. Thanks for the answer. Thank you for playing. I appreciate you. Definitely. Yes, Helter Skelter, very fire, very underrated. Remember, that was Paul McCartney listening to The Who going, man, this is the darkest, grimiest rock and roll I'm hearing on the radio. I need to recreate that. And this is what's crazy is Paul wrote the hardest Beatles songs consistently. Yet he's the love ballad guy. Like his entire solo career and with Wings is like on the borderline of being too cheesy. Yet when they went hard, I mean, I need to do a deep dive on Beatles songs in which Paul played lead guitar, because his soloing is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. All right, let's go. Let's go. Sandine, BC, when MK travels, you can come climb Pikes Peak with me. Easy 14,000. I would love to do that. Do you live in Colorado, Sandine? Am I just figuring this out? Are you a electrician in Colorado? Is that where we're at here? So my sister lives in Longmont, Colorado. We did go to Rocky Mountain National Park, but I have really, every time I visited her, it's been such short trips based around family that I've not been able to explore Colorado like I wanted to. The last time I was there, we did leave her house and drive across the Rockies into Utah on our way to the national parks there in Moab. And that drive was just awesome and magical and beautiful and incredible, but I didn't get to really stop and get after it. Colorado is just so untapped for me, and like it's heaven. It's God's country. I can't wait to one day really get after it. But the thing is, it's like I got to get after these hikes before I'm too old, right? Before the knees and the hip. I mean, I wake up every morning with like this hip upper butt pain from sleeping at a weird angle, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna ever walk again, you know? Am I the only one who says that? I don't know. Lazy Bed says Dave migrates to and fro between Illinois and Colorado. Dave would support this comment and say, I'm staying in Colorado, building my brother's dream house and Airbnb in the mountains. Wow, dude. Is that near Pikes Peak? What is that? Southeastern Colorado? There you go. There you go. All right. We're on a run. Let's get out of here. Two Changs, thank you, brother, for playing. Rank them. Nate Campbell, the Galaxy Warrior. That's like 2 or 3 X's in that. Shout out to Nate Campbell. Ali Funeka and Joan Guzman. Joan Guzman was so underrated, man. What? 2-division champion. Jermell Charlo's favorite fighter. He's been using him as a trainer for years in his stable. I'll go Campbell, Guzman, Funeka. But they're all pretty damn close, like underrated names that don't get the love that definitely were on top for a while. I love the old man Nate Campbell years when he was like resurgent and lingering on there. Man, Two Changs knows boxing. This guy lives it. I mean, this guy just shows up in Vegas at these events and we'll talk Leonard Ellerby's ear off for an hour. I need to hang with Two Changs one time. I feel like we're going to end up at a comedy show or something. I don't know. Back to Sandine's Colorado location, 3 miles as the crow flies from Pikes Peak. We built the balcony to face the mountain when chilling outside. Wow. Yeah. Hell yeah. Rocky Mountain High. I'm sure you've gotten a few of those, Sandine, right? Yeah. All right. Few left in here. This has been great, guys. Thank you. Nick says, thank you, Nick, for your support. BCX is the best. Do you know boxing reporter Steve Kim well? I enjoy listening to you both and wanted to see if you guys have ever worked together. So we've never worked together. We've known each other since I've been on the boxing beat, which goes back to like 2011. I've never had a bad word with Steve personally. We haven't had a ton of contact. We have talked before on the phone. I shouted him out when he got the job at ESPN. Yeah, Steve Kim's a veteran in this game. Does the podcast with AC Slater, has for years. Like anyone in boxing media has been, been in and out of a few tussles or controversies along the way, but is a lifer in this game, loves the game, does kind of crazy content with Jason Whitlock these days surrounding race that I'm not always behind or up on or whatever. But in terms of boxing, going back to what Max Boxing and all those other websites, yeah, Steve Kim's an old school California guy who has a very good he's been there for the big ones. He's got a good grasp of history, but outside of saying hi to each other at a fight and catching up briefly, we've never been that close. But I've tried my best to avoid beefs through the years. I'm not trying to be everybody's friend, but trying to just do my job, move on, get along. And I know that there's some people that have controversial names or experiences in here, but like, look, we can, Cop does things that we can rip on, but when I see Cop, dude, we say hi, we say what's up. Like, I'm not at war with anybody and don't plan to be, but yeah. Yo Mama 69. Thank you, sir. The Holmes Cooney Legendary Nights episode was crazy, dude. Very crazy, because people don't realize how much that was billed as white versus black, how much the promotion was built around that. So all of those are great. There's not a bad episode in that group. There really isn't. And I think for a lot of people that filled in the gaps of their boxing education, because those were done in 22-minute blocks. or half-hour blocks at most. Those were done so brilliantly with the right people. Mark Kriegel was so good in those back in the day as a talking head. So good. Damn. All right, we got 4 left. Then we're packing up and getting out of here. I got to get ready for some CBS Sports HQ. It's UFC Paris week. Let's go. We hit that question. Thank you. Fantastic question. Let's go back over to Matthew Garrett. Thank you again for sliding in here, Matthew. Thank you. You meant without pay-per-view. Pay-per-view sucks right now. Pay-per-view to pay-per-view. Feels like a real low period with some mid to decent mains. Okay. So you're saying right now you're bored. I mean, look, I feel like we've been getting good main events out of the UFC pay-per-views lately. The quality could dip at times for sure at the tail end of this ESPN era. I hope it changes with Paramount. Nothing's going to compare to 2015 and 2016, but let's hope the Paramount deal is pointing upward. Matthew G, thank you again for supporting me and all you do. Also, Maniac 541 is here on the chat. Mickey Mantle or Cal Raleigh. So I don't even know much about this Cal guy. I'm really not following baseball anymore. I try to tell my friends who still listen to every Mets game on the radio that baseball is for old people. I know that's not true, and it's kind of rude too because I do a lot of old guy things. But I would like if the Mets could recapture my attention again. It's just, man, the baseball season is so damn long. I can't believe I used to give my life to it. I really can't. But there do seem to be some all-timers rolling around from Ohtani, Judge, people talking about this guy. But yeah, I'll pick Mickey Mantle because this guy was hungover for all of these games and may not have slept the night before to his own detriment. All right. It's been fun, guys. Thank you very much. I always appreciate this. And you guys, it's a small group of hardcores, but once a week we chat about it and we talk about life to a certain degree. And it means a lot to me. Appreciate it. So MK Friday. Inside the Box is tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern on this here BCX. So Rafe Buggs and I, we're going to start to really get fired up for Canelo-Crawford. We're going to ask each other some tough questions about each fighter. Tune into that. Thank you for your support of this show. And I hope you guys are really doing well. One last time, if you want to send something to MK, you want to send something to here BCX style, that's the P.O. box that Long Island Luke has set up. To write my name, write Morning Combat, whatever, Long Island Luke, whatever you got to do there. Yeah, write my name. If you're sending me something, write my name on there. But that's the address you can send it to. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much. I've got probably the greatest outro in all of podcasting, and it is my good friend, my good man right there, Anthony on lead guitar, Jacob on the drums. Fantastic band out of Nebraska, a jam band called Head Change. And this is me giving you the outro. Did we get Carol Alt one more time too? Do we do that one more? Let's see if I can figure out how to use this thing. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I mean, am I this old? Yeah, it's not going to work. We're out of here. Here's your outro. Thank you.